Very good afternoon, everybody. Welcome for the afternoon session. This is a high-tech session, and very high-profile speakers are going to share their experiences and enlighten us on various subjects, especially on data analysis and artificial intelligence. This session is going to be moderated by Mr. Sampath. No need to introduce you to Mr. Sampath. Every one of you know about him. You saw his caliber in the morning when he was giving his impressions about the three presentations. Master of all subjects. He is an electrical and electronics engineer, handles several projects over the past more than 30 years, or 3 decades he has handled. And he calls himself as semi-techie, who follows the technological trends from time to time and keep himself abreast of all those things all the time. And I hand over the session to Mr. Sampath. Yes. In Gujarati, MBA means Mane Baddu Avade. Mane Baddu Avade means I know everything. He is really a person of that caliber. He is also an MBA by qualification as well. Thank you very much. Over to you, Sampath ji. And we are looking forward to two enlightening sessions. And we'll, as usual, reserve the questions for the end. Questions, discussions, and any solutions for possible challenges. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Okay, I'm audible. Hope all of you have had a good lunch. And I was telling when I came in, this is like attending a session on thermodynamics after a heavy lunch. But the class size is small, so we'll be watching all of you. Okay. The subject now is, or the topic now is, data analytics, a game changer. Okay. Now don't ask me which game it changes. It's an overall game changer. But to introduce data analytics in a more base level, you know data analytics now is used very heavily in cricket. You might have, when you see the commentary, and they are sort of analyzing the ball, the speed, the pitch, how it might hit the wicket. All this comes from data. Okay. In the background, teams also have data analytics experts now. Okay. Just like in the US, they have a lot of data analytics for basketball, baseball, etc. In India, for cricket, it's a big thing because they analyze past performances of players, how a bowler tends to bowl, okay, to a right-hand batsman, to a left-hand batsman. All these things are analyzed by data analysts. Actually, institutes now offer a course on sports data analytics itself. Data analytics is also used very heavily in what you call electoral game plans. Okay. Put in simple terms, after all, what is data analytics? Data analytics is basically getting a lot of data and then trying to slice it and dice it to get insights. We were doing this all along in various ways. But now what has changed? Now you might have heard terms like big data, LLM, machine learning models, and all this terminology coming at you from everywhere. So now the volume of data has become very, very high. And today you have the computing power and the graphical power, both of them together, because your graphics cards are also very powerful, to look at the data in a much more finer way to enable you to make business decisions. With that small background, I leave it to Dr. P.K. Vishwanathan to take it forward. To give you an introduction of Dr. P.K. Vishwanathan, of course, I can't say that all of you know him and things like that. He's considered one of the, or he is one of the top data analysts in the country today. Okay. He has about 30 years of academic experience. He's worked in various MBA schools. He's got a whole pile of students who have studied under him. Even my son has studied under him, data analytics. So he's got a lot of academic experience in data analytics as well as giving advice to companies and other places. So he will take it forward. And of course, he's got a lot of publications to his credit. Okay, otherwise you don't get known. Now he's got a YouTube channel also in which he's explaining concepts in about 10-minute clips. Okay. And I think last count he had about 1,400 subscribers to his channel already. So I leave it to Dr. Vishwanathan to take it forward and give us this presentation on why data analytics is a game changer. Why do you consider it as a game changer today? Okay? Thank you.
Okay. 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 Backward. Okay. It's a little harder, but doesn't matter. I'll manage. Good afternoon. It gives me great pleasure to appear before you in a different avatar. Data analytics. So we have discussed a lot of topics in the morning, which are very interesting, and all of a sudden, data analytics, it appears in the afternoon, and that too after the lunch. So let me try to deliver it as lucid as possible and as motivating as possible to people here. I will try to finish it within the allotted time, and you can list all your questions. Later we will discuss with Dr. Rama when his session also gets over as the modus operandi. So let me, Sampath has just started saying some features of data analytics. So let me formally begin now. What is data analytics? It's a set of tools applied to discover pattern, trends, and associations from a given data set. And I must clarify here, data analytics exists with and without big data. It's a concept. So the idea is to separate the insights from the data. The data contains a lot of things. You must have the capability to separate the insights from the data and leverage on those insights for decision making at whatever level you occupy, in whichever position you are placed, in whichever organization, be it profit oriented or not for profit oriented. So decision making is at the heart. So you are leveraging on insights. The word insight today is much more interesting and useful than information. For your information, I am saying this. Insights is what we use. Now, just like the divine swans described in the Manasarovar, the Annapakshi, when a mixture of milk and water is given, the swan is able to separate the milk from the water and drink only the milk. An analytic professional today must have the capability to separate the insights from the not useful stuff from the data set and concentrate on insights. So you must have the capability to derive and look for insights from the data. So that is data analytics in a broad way. You can, of course, expand. You have supervised learning, unsupervised learning, artificial intelligence, so on and so forth. I will try to pitch it as much devoid of technical terms and try to come to some grips. Now some examples. So everybody is familiar. Knowing who will win an election before it happens. Cephalogists are there. You just connect to any TV channel today. You have opinion poll, you have exit polls, you have the mood of the nation, whatever you call it, and they are able to get some pattern and they are able to predict. Of course, the accuracy depends on many factors. It's not a simple exercise, but it is one of the things people understand. And you must predict before the results are out, sufficiently in advance. So that is one example. The other one is when you give loan, what is the chance a customer will default on a loan? It's very important for the bank. And in a normal way, we may say 50-50. 50% probability or chance somebody will default is a very high probability. Even 10% default probability could lead to a disaster for the bank. Now, why this is important? Supposing 100 people take loan, 1.5 crores, to buy some luxurious flat. Out of 1,000 customers, let us assume 100 people took that loan, and the 100 customers are bad customers. They don't repay neither the principal nor the interest. Let's say the defaulters. 100 into 1.5 crores, 150 crores is a phenomenal loss to the bank. And therefore, the non-performing assets which you say in the bank, which is very much due to the credit risk, which is the highest risk in the bank. Credit risk, market risk, and operations risk. So, this is very important for the bank. And they must have a system to screen and be able to say, we should not give loan to this customer or this person, which is very critical. So it transforms data into actionable recommendations using insights as the basis. You can give several examples, Amazon, Flipkart, everybody is using analytics. And the idea of data analytics is also predictive in nature after the patterns are recognized. Why do you say game changer? Of course, Sampath is saying game changer means which game? And he has cited the example of cricket. But cricket game itself is a game changer today, from what when Sampath said. Because the way the analytics is done in cricket, the game changer itself you can witness in cricket. Even the slow motion, the third umpire, decisions, everything, so on and so forth, are captured. One of the reasons why you are doing today the data analytics is ocean of data, awash with the data. Everywhere you see data. All the four directions you see data. And you cannot escape. So, and such data could be numbers, could be unstructured. Your own Android phone, you have several things in the phone available, SMS, WhatsApp, all kinds of things, comments, everything. You have social media, you have Twitter, everything, name anything. You have all electronic gadgets. The world is digital today. So everywhere you see data, you cannot escape. And such data is increasing at a phenomenal rate, which is beyond our imagination. We cannot imagine. And we call it big data, small data, and all will come to that. And therefore, what you should do, you have tremendous opportunities, incredible. Business organizations can get insights and improve their bottom performance, informed decisions. You can solve very complex problems which you never thought you could solve, and you can stay ahead of competition. Marketing is like a warfare. In war, you just do not meet the enemy and shake hands. In war, you crush the enemy. In war, it is not the strength of the army that determines success or failure. It is a strategic deployment of resources that are decisive for success or failure. Therefore, we must make it happen. And therefore, this opportunity we have got because we have plenty of data, which was not the case some 20 years back, which was not the case. And the pace of decision making. There is a sea change in the way we do business transactions today. Funds transfer, NEFT transfer, you say, RTGS and IMPS. So you do that. Then even the Pukari here or some milkman. GPay, sir, you have GPay. So everything is changed. The way business transactions are taking place. There is no escape from this. How many people give check? Very rarely, unless you have very large amount, you don't give check. You do a funds transfer. So everything is digital. That's a paradigm shift in the way we do business and we interact with people. Look at Amazon, for example. Buyer behavior pattern, everything they are studying. They cannot afford to wait. And you need to make smarter decisions faster. You cannot wait. It's a highly competitive world, so you have to do that. One cannot afford to wait. If you wait, you will be swept away. This is the situation. At the individual level, maybe you can still afford to relax, but the organization level, everything has changed. You have to embrace change. There is no escape. So this is the reason why you say a pace of decision making, it's a game changer. Enormous computing power today. In our time, in the mathematics class, we have to do some matrix inverse. Some algorithm will be discussed in the class, Cramer's rule or something. We have to struggle, find out so many things. It's the same algorithm if you use for doing 1000 by 1000 matrix today, the same algorithm if you use, somebody will be able to return from Harvard after doing a DBA program. It will take so much time. So faster and sophisticated algorithms are available and enormous computing power that is there today. Dashboard for business intelligence. You go to a bank site, you go to National Stock Exchange, anything you want to do in the web, you have a dashboard, you can navigate, you can get all the things, business intelligence. And the dashboard is a derivative of the analytic results that are happening on a real-time basis, and the dashboard is getting dynamically updated with visuals, tables, charts, everything. So this is the scenario. Then the data architecture. Enormous amount of data today you can save using hardware, cloud computing, everything. You can do a lot of things. Sorry? Yeah. I may. So this is the position. You are able to manage data which you cannot imagine. So they are measuring it in exabyte or betabyte or whatever. I don't want to sound technical, but millions and millions of records are coming, and you can save them, and you can manipulate the data the way you want. So these are the reasons what was not possible 20 years ago, today it is possible. Some examples of big data. So before we talk about these examples, a textbook definition of big data will say big data is something which you cannot normally process or manipulate using standard methods. It depends on volume, velocity, veracity, variety, and all kinds of V's. But actually, big data, if it has to remain as big data, it should become bigger so that tomorrow it is big data. Because the computing power is so much that what is big data today can become small data tomorrow. It is related to the computing power. So the data set, if it is stretched too far and the computer says, give me moksham, I don't think I can solve the problem. Both in terms of computing power and the hardware, if the computer says, I'm shivering, sorry, I can't solve. That kind of a thing only can be called big data, which is invariant to the very structure and definition of time. So any time you can say big data if the computing power is not good enough to manipulate the data. That is big data. So it's not a textbook definition. It is something which we have to recognize. So some of the examples, as you can see, Walmart handles over 1 million purchase transactions per hour. Facebook processes over 350 million picture uploads per day. Amazon's product recommendation systems and algorithmic trading. So if you want to sound more modern, you can say algo trading, if you like it, algorithmic trading. So stock market and all that. These are examples of big data. But as I told you earlier, analytics exists with and without big data. We must be very clear about it. Every application is not big data. There are many cases where you need analytics to solve problems which may not be big data. So some key highlights, just for the sake of awareness and understanding. The World Bank predicts that the internet penetration will jump to 41% in 2000. It has already doubled, but it has become 41% in 2019. It is expected to go up further. I don't have the latest number. And 900 million users will be further added by 2025. The analytic industry is projected to reach a size of $201 billion by 2027 with a compound growth rate of 26.9%. This is the Source Analytics India Industry Study 2022. And the major sectors where it is used, the highest, as you can see, is banking, financial services, the number one. E-commerce is the second one. Healthcare is the third one. Hospitality, tourism is the fourth one. The top four I have put here. Again, the source is Analytic India Study 2022. I have just put a picture, visuals. A picture is worth 1,000 words sometimes, provided the picture is a right picture, otherwise it may be worthless. So now, how the data analytics works in practice. I am taking two case examples, and I just want to give a very, very simple example first to create some interest, and then we'll talk about how it works otherwise when the problem is very complex. I've just picked up 3 shares: TCS, Hindustan Lever, Unilever, and Reliance Industry. The risk and return I've taken from there based on the risk factor is based on some, unfortunately, statistical standard deviation based on return per day and all that you have to compute, but it's available in that site. I have given the reference. And the return. Now, imagine you are a small investor. You have got 1 lakh with you. In what manner should you invest? What percentage should you invest in each one of the shares? The idea is to maximize the overall portfolio return. And I am giving a target risk of it should not exceed 9%. Hypothetically, I am saying, for example. How will you do? This is the problem which we can pose. You can use, instead of stocks, mutual funds, or even post office deposit, whatever you have. But the idea is to understand risk-return trade-off. You cannot minimize risk and maximize wealth at the same time. You have to have a target for one of them and do the rest. For example, you can minimize risk subject to a target return, or maximize return subject to a target risk. Now, just like that, you cannot take some weighted average risk directly. So I have prepared a computer thing which I would like to show here now with the help of Vikram. Now I think the connection is there. I just want to show that part, how it works. Now this is at the hour level. Suppose you are willing to wait for 2 years. You are not making money every day. You are not a short-term investor. You are waiting for 1 or 2 years. You want to invest money and get some return. The problem in real life will be much more complex. But I am just starting with this. And I'll just show you that. The system, it will work here. Yeah. Yeah, I'll just show you. Yeah. Okay, sorry. In the same slide, I will bring it there and then. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Now, let's say hypothetically I put some thing here, mix some numbers, 1%, 1%, 1%, which is a short-term number, some number I put there, which is a trial solution, and maximize the return. The target risk is 9% is what is wanted. So let me just use the solver optimization engine to do this problem. So it says that TCS you invest 3,355, Hindustan Lever 0, Reliance you invest 96,645 as the risk is closer to that. Now, I can, depending upon the fact what is your risk appetite, whether you are willing to take higher risk, lower risk or moderate risk, the solution will change. Depending upon that, supposing you say that I want only 6% return, I want to play safe. I'm just saying that. And then I will just use the solver again. Now, still Hindustan Lever is 0, but TCS is 41,000 something. Now, what I'm trying to show is, depending upon your risk appetite, you can play around. Post office scheme, how much should I have? Mutual funds, how much? Stock market, how much? If you are adventurous and you are willing to take risk, then you can do a lot of things. So this is, in fact, a classic model which the great Markowitz prepared and won the Nobel Prize for programming, quadratic programming. And I've just modeled it as an illustration. And take you to the slide here to show you the impact now. This is a table, risk, return, and what is the mix, how it changes. And this is a graph. As the risk factor increases, the return also increases. And if you are able to diversify your stocks, you can prepare a map, high risk, high return, moderate risk, moderate return, low risk, low return. I have got 10 lakhs to invest. What should be the mix? How I should distribute among all that, so that I don't put everything in one basket and I say 10% return. My fixed deposit return is 7. Let me get 10% return. You can work it out. But in life, the problem will not be very simple. Now, there are big institutions, big stockbrokers, very big organizations. They cannot afford to do this. Every fraction things are changing. Every minute transactions are taking place. So how do you do this? What should be the time you enter the market, exit the market? In seconds it can change. Within a day it can change everything. And you can fix everything. Millions and millions of records are happening. So you use the algorithmic trading, which is an intersection between big data and stock market. And you can decide everything using artificial intelligence. In fact, robotic artificial intelligence is also today applied. You can do all that. Stock price, everything is predicted just like that. Because of this, it's possible, it's disruptive. It's possible that certain people or institutions can manipulate and do something. And therefore, it is extremely important to understand the cyber governance security side, which Dr. Rama will address. So the artificial intelligence, you cannot escape. Data analytics, you cannot escape. But you will have to take some precautions, if at all, to protect your interest. At the smaller level, at an individual level, it may not be a big problem. But at institution level, anything can happen. So it's not as simple as what I have shown, but I'm only trying to create interest. At our level, this Markowitz followed by technical analysis, we can still make some money in the stock market, depending on 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, whatever you want to invest. But when it gets very complex, big data analytics, you need institutions, which they are doing, they use the algorithmic trading, and artificial intelligence is the way forward. So everything is dictated by that. Second case I have taken, machine learning algorithms. AIML, Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning Algorithms. Now, some example I have taken. I don't want to go to the software side. I have written a script in Python and answers are there. But I just want to highlight, when you have data, I need to study the pattern. I don't start predicting straight away. So the pattern part, I have taken the financial indicators, how it should be viewed for banks over a period of 18 to 20 years. Just an example and exercise. And first I classified them into 3 clusters, which is called unsupervised learning. To understand the pattern, I need clustering algorithm, which is used to classify. And I found 3 clusters in that, which are strong, medium, and weak performance, let's say, financial performance. This is just a name which we are giving based on the credit deposit ratio, the non-performing assets position, net interest income margins, and all that we have taken, liquid assets to total assets, all that. Then there are 3 categories: strong, medium, and weak. And what is strong today can become moderate or weak tomorrow, because you know the strongest bank, Yes Bank, collapsed in 2020. We don't know the situation. So all of us are putting fixed deposit thinking that everything is safe. Of course, the Reserve Bank is protecting and all that. But we have to be aware of the fact that banks are also subjected to the extraordinary situation of becoming a very vulnerable case when the defaulters increase non-performing assets. And therefore, you look at it, and these are indicators, not necessarily true. So these clusters are differentiated in terms of the financial indicators, and you have the top banks: HDFC, ICICI, Kotak Mahindra, State Bank of India, of course, Canara Bank, and CUB, City Union Bank. Of course, I have not put the other things. Some of them are between moderate and strong. And I don't want to talk about the weak banks and all that. But generally, how it does is, after the clusters, it predicts the probability that this will be getting this strong position, 60% chance, 70% chance. You cannot exactly predict, but sufficient evidence, and you will be surprised to see both private and public sector together. HDFC is brilliant in performance. The non-performing asset is least, and recently is around 1% or so. Even State Bank has 3%. Of course, it's a large bank. So, this way, we can develop, using artificial intelligence and machine learning, an alert system to the bank. Don't be complacent. You are in trouble. If you don't take action and pull up your socks, from best performance, you may become moderate or worse. Be careful. So alert systems can be developed using artificial intelligence and data analytics, and instantaneously the additional inputs are fed as and when they become available, and you have huge opportunity. The government can very well implement. I think most of them they are doing, but the alert system is what I'm saying, that you should not assume status quo that you are going to be wonderful all the time. It's not necessary. This is the second case example, how analytics, data analytics can help you. Now, what is the future outlook? Some of them are challenges. What solution you provide, people have to really understand and discuss. AIML will automate prediction. Continues, it's already doing. ChatGPT, so many things are happening now. And it has become something like a medical professional. If you don't update, you become a dead dude. So everything is changing. Mobile technology. Instead of e-commerce, it may be m-commerce. Everything will be mobile. Even laptop you may not be able to use. Things are changing. Of course, I will be handicapped. I like the laptop better than the mobile. But do we have a choice? Social media and customers' perception interaction is a critical factor for determining profit margin and contribution margin for organizations. And here, I must add that social media, web analytics, text mining, natural language processing, unstructured data, you have to corroborate the natural language processing insights with other external data to confirm everything. And when you predict machine learning, one of the very important things which you should remember is you have 10,000 records, for example. You build a model for 7,000 records, 70%. The remaining 3,000 records, whether the model works, you will have to, first of all, ensure. Then new data, whether the model works. Then only predictive analytics will be useful. Otherwise, it will not be useful because you may overfit and the real situation may be different, the model will collapse. So, training, test data, and then new data, you have to validate the results. Technology and software, they are very important. On a real-time basis, decisions will continue to take place. Organization must just embrace change, data analytics and AI and all that at once, immediately. That's the future outlook. Key prerequisites for success, some of them are challenges, we have to find solution. Model building, sound knowledge in statistics, models and all that. Expertise in the subject matter. If you are a finance person, you should understand risk management, finance, everything thoroughly. There is no escape. Technology and software skills. Ability to work in teams with a collaborative approach instead of a competitive approach within the organization. Your organization must compete with other organizations, then you become a competitor versus competitor challenge. Whereas within the organization, you should work as a team. So, this is another challenge. It's not easy. Somebody is an expert in finance, somebody is an expert in software. How do you put them together? Very difficult. Ego clash. So, Dr. Balachandra used to say, you go, I go, we go in between. So, ego clash will be there. How do you implement? These are challenges. Team building, leadership, all those things matter. Comfortable with the numbers, I'm saying. Everybody need not be an expert in analytics, but you must know analytics can be used. You should not be afraid of numbers. If you touch, it should not bite you. So, afraid of numbers should not be there. Ability to write a lucid report with business flavor. Supposing I write a very technical report and I say I have used a chi-square test, the p-value is 0.05, therefore the hypothesis is rejected. Your proposal will be rejected. You will have to write a report with a business flavor, how it will help the organization, and therefore the challenges are how do you get the right mix. You have got a lot of institutions today offering analytic course, IIT, IIMs, BITS Pilani, XLRI, Great Lakes, Great Learning, lot of other private institutes, everybody is offering. So somebody is an expert in software but lacks the analytical knowledge. Somebody is an expert in analytics but does not understand the software. Somebody can do both. Now, how do you bridge this gap? How do you get the right mix? And how do you train them is a challenge. And that also involves leadership qualities and implementing the problems and all that. I think I leave with the hope that you have appreciated. Anyway, analytics has entered like Bahasura into the market and our life, artificial intelligence, everything. There is no escape. Even when you start typing an email, it prompts and it gives you so many things. And therefore, it's a pleasure. Learn all this with fun. You don't have to be an expert, but you should know the expert should be used. I don't want to use. The chief executive of a company need not know AI, but the chief executive should know AI should be used. Otherwise, you'll be swept away in the competition. So thank you very much for the time. I think, thank you. Big thank you. You can leave your questions and you can do that. Thank you. Yeah.
Questions together. Question. No question now.
No, well, just in the close button.
Close button.
Just to the close button.
Recorded 3, ah?
Shut up, Marina.
ಇದನ್ನ ಅದು ಮೌಸ್
Mouse, external mouse, I always use.
ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟರ್ನಲ್
Sometimes.
Thank you, Dr. Viswanathan. That was very enlightening. I think it was Mukesh Ambani who said, data is the new oil. Okay, I think he said it about 10, 15 years ago. So, yeah, he said data was so important. Okay, like oil was so important in the 20th century, he said data is going to be the driver in the 21st century. A very interesting concept came about. I don't know how many of you now know, they spun off Geo Financial Services from Reliance. Okay? And how many of you know, you might have heard of Tally, the accounting software, that millions of small traders, companies use across India. Now it's been on a cloud platform for quite some time. Somebody commented, the reason he spun off Geo Financial was he had a control of all the data of all these small businesses. And that was power. Okay? Because then he could tailor the financial requirements for each of those businesses because he knew all of them. Okay? So that's the importance of data, and that's where data analytics is very important. Now Dr. Viswanathan said, game changer. Now Dr. Ram Subramaniam is going to say, what game changer? Now I'm coming with life changer. Okay. Now he's going to talk about artificial intelligence and the legal framework required for it. Of course, data analytics is very closely related to artificial intelligence. I was thinking yesterday when I was looking at this, when he said it's a legal framework for AI, I was reminded about Isaac Asimov. Many of you might have heard of Isaac Asimov. He was a very big physicist, but also one of the greatest science fiction writers. So way back 60 years ago, robos were under introduction, and they said robots was the prime example of AI. Because at that time, they did not have this type of computing power. It was all mainframes and things like that. So Asimov did not think about all these things that AI is going to do today. So for his purpose, he defined 3 laws for robots. Okay? One of the first laws is very important. It says, in no way robots should harm humans. Okay, that's how he starts, his first law. Robots, at any point of time, should not harm humans. Now you come forward into the future. Today, AI is being discussed on those same terms. Today we are talking, Dr. Ram Subramaniam is going to talk about the legal framework of AI. At the same time, there is a summit happening in the UK for AI security. Because now countries are very worried how to control this monster called AI. It's there everywhere. Everybody would have heard of ChatGPT. Okay, now ChatGPT is a very superficial application of AI. But there are so many things that are happening in AI, which are mind-boggling. And the biggest problem is the rate of development of AI is too high for us to manage, because the tools and the facilities that you're getting, along with the computing power, makes AI one of the biggest challenges for humans. AI is there everywhere. You now take medical, sort of diagnosis, AI is involved. Legal systems, AI is involved. Everywhere it's involved. But how is it going to affect humanity? And that is the search now. How do you control it? It's a big search. Now, Dr. Ram Subramaniam, he's a data security specialist, plus he's a cyber cryptologist. Okay. That means he tries to protect you from all types of data. Okay. So he's going to talk about the legal framework required for AI, but this is a very hot topic, and it's not going to happen so easily also. I think he had a lecture about 10 days ago, something like that, on why cyber criminals will always be ahead. Okay. It's very interesting, because he says the legal framework today cannot catch up with the cyber criminals because we are not geared to it. The problem is now we are dealing, all our thought processes are dealing with humans. Now how do you deal with AI? So that's completely different. Now I leave it to Dr. Ram Subramaniam to take us through the steps.
Good afternoon. Even before I start on AI, much has been said about it. So let me get you out of your possible post-lunch sleep with a question. Let me ask you a question and let me get the answer for that. I will make a statement. Tell me if that statement is right or wrong. Don't interpret anything else. Tell me correct, not correct. Because computers understand yes or no. It doesn't understand long-winded text. The statement is this. The rate of change in the average height of all the grass grown on Shankar's farm is proportional to the rate of change in the average age of people in this hall. Should I repeat the statement? Right. The rate of change of the average height of all grass that grows on Shankar's farm is proportional to the rate of change of the average age of the people in this room. Yes. Okay. People saying yes, correct. Yes. Okay. People saying wrong. Majority say wrong. I'm sure there will be people saying stupid question. Who says stupid question? Oh, that's amazing. Nobody says it. If I ask this question to a typical computer, the answer would be right. Because I only said proportional. I never give the constant. Both change with time. As grass grows up, age also grows up. But the problem is, does it make any sense to you? Will I ever have to measure length of the grass in Shankar's farm, come back and relate it to age? Irrelevant, but mathematically correct. Artificial intelligence has to be understood in this context. It will do wonders. It will do some great computation. It will calculate at the speeds of a nanosecond, meaning 10 power minus 9 seconds. But if you don't give the right kind of input, It will give you correct but irrelevant output. Correct output, irrelevant. Let me give you one more example to make you understand this intelligent thing called a machine. There's a machine that was designed for translation. Like we have translating machines, Google Translate. Just say, the joke always is about Russian computers, right? That's a normal joke in the world. Russian computers are useless machines, Americans are good, etc. So let's take example. One Russian English translating machine. It has been taught everything. So the guy went to the machine and said, I will give you something, translate. He said, out of sight, out of mind. What does it mean? If I don't see Bharath for some time, I am likely to forget him, right? That's what I intend to say. The machine translation read, invisible idiot. Why? Out of sight is invisible. Out of mind is idiot. So technically correct. It said, this is what he taught me. Is it relevant? Not relevant. So one of the biggest challenges, ladies and gentlemen, that when you come to something like artificial intelligence, relevance becomes very critical. If you don't know how to factor that into AI, you'll get a great AI, you'll do wonders, but you won't get the result the way you would like it to come. For example, ChatGPT, somebody mentioned. Like he mentioned very correctly, it's a very superficial application. We once asked ChatGPT, what is the capital of India? It said, New Delhi. He wrote back saying, you're wrong, it is not New Delhi, come again. He said, New Delhi. We said, no, you're wrong, it's Mumbai, come again. We said, no, it's New Delhi. Fourth time when we said you're wrong, it said, it happened about a month ago. It said, on the date, whatever date, let's take it as 1st of October. It said, as I know, as of 1st October, it is only New Delhi. Technically correct, legally correct statement. So if you talk to AI, if you look at the AI concept, you have to understand very clearly it thinks not in the way in which you and I are trained to think. It thinks very differently. It is that attribute of AI that it thinks very differently has got a benefit and a disadvantage. The benefit is it can solve, it can understand the most complex relationships in the world and help you solve it. The disadvantage is it doesn't have the accumulated wisdom which from generations together we have acquired hereditarily and by reading and by going to college and schools. It's an interesting animal. It's brilliant but nutty. Fast but can distract you. So in this context, it becomes very important when you let artificial intelligence control finance, healthcare, trade, commerce, military, policing. It's absolutely important to have a legal framework saying, thus far, no further. If I don't do that, you'll go way about what I can't do. Mr. Sampath quoted Isaac Asimov. I'm a great fan of Isaac Asimov myself. In fact, I still have his books with me in the house. The first law was, the robots cannot harm a human being. But have they harmed human beings? As you know today, 2 recorded deaths and multiple injuries. Both, of course, you could go back and say, what went wrong? What went wrong? Programming went wrong. The first case, forklift truck programmed to run without a driver, to go lift material and place it somewhere else. Some strange coincidence happened. It did not recognize the human being before him. It thought that human being was a material, lifted him and threw him out. 1 in a perhaps 10 million cases. 1 in a billion cases, but still a human life was lost. Luckily, as of now, we have only 2 reported cases of robotic deaths. So when you build an AI system, I'll come to that part of it later in this presentation, you need to be very, very careful and clear that you will always make sure that there is no human being harmed as a result of application of any artificial intelligence system. In this background, ladies and gentlemen, let me take you through quickly what is the legal framework required for AI. There's one angle we need to understand when we build the legal framework. It cannot stop by being applicable to one jurisdiction because today we are in the interconnected world. I can't say I like India law, which is very different from the American law, different from British law. You will be in deep trouble. So I'll also tell you why the United Nations has said all AI laws in the world must have connectivity. I'll take you back about 23 years ago, in 2000, India wanted to pass the first information technology law. The select committee of the parliament met, they discussed and never got in any result. No, he was on telecom. He didn't work on this. Then INCITRAL, United Nations Conference on International Trade Laws, came with a model law of e-commerce. We were the 7th country in the world, very early on, to adopt it. The benefit it got was every other of the 180 plus countries, the United Nations, adopted the same law. So, trans-border trade became easier, manageable, better documented. Today, we don't have such a thing available for all of us to say, let me adopt this AI law. We don't have it. But we have some pointers to which I'll make a reference soon. So, with this background, ladies and gentlemen, let's look at what is it we should understand? What should we recommend to the government as factors to be considered when India gets an AI law, which will happen pretty soon? Right. Agenda for today is a threefold agenda. I'll spend a couple of minutes with you saying what's happening around us. It's important to know what's happening around us. What are the principles to be considered, or what do we recommend as principles for consideration when the new artificial intelligence law becomes a reality? And finally, what international conventions do we look at, and how do we align with them? As I mentioned, you cannot stand as an island in AI in the enormous ocean of, like what Professor PKV said, data-driven world. Quickly, I'll give a working definition. Don't worry much about it, just to get you an idea. I like this definition. Way back in 2017, the theory and development of computer systems able to perform tasks normally requiring human intelligence. The biggest difficulty in this definition is, what could that be? Defining human intelligence. It's very easily said. But if you go and search for what is human intelligence, I would probably have a lot of difficulty, but let's understand. We know what it is. We have a set of intelligence. We can say whatever the IQ test measures above 95 is human intelligence, something like that. Anyway, leave this definition. Don't worry much about it. Right. I'll tell you what is happening around the world very quickly. The first effort was by the European community. They had a high-level expert group on artificial intelligence. They are working on that. I'll talk about the convention. There's an expert group on AI by OECD, Organized Economic Cooperation and Development. The Singapore has an advisory council on ethical use of AI. The House of Lords in UK has got a select committee on AI. The United States Department of Defense has an AI Innovation Council. So a lot of governments in the world are focusing on understanding, harnessing the effort of AI in their own governments and in public life. Now, I want to spend a minute with you on this. What's happening in the United States? There are multiple things happening there. Every state has got its own AI law. But before that, they have federal law called National Artificial Intelligence Initiative Act of 2020. And one other country which has got a federal law completely passed is Canada. They've got an AI and Data Act of 2022 last year. These are only two comprehensive nationwide legislations in the world today. Rest are in different stages of formation, including India. But if you look at the state laws in the United States, there are three classes of them. States like California, New York, Colorado, etc., they have got a complete law for the state. Interestingly, in Arizona, the legislature passed a law, but the governor vetoed it, saying, I don't like this law. Go back to the legislature. So they're still struggling to come, like it's happening elsewhere in the world. Legislature, ruling party, and governor are fighting what will the AA law become in Arizona. Now, finally, in Montana, North Dakota, Oregon, and Texas, they have a law, but they said, we are not ready for implementation, defer it to 2024. So globally, there is no clear understanding of what should I do, how should I do it, how will I roll it out. So if India takes time, we can't blame ourselves for that. Some countries are nowhere near legislation, for example, South Africa, for example, Singapore, Australia, Japan, are still talking about it like we are still talking about it. Okay. There are non-governmental frameworks, comprehensive frameworks available in the world. The most comprehensive is by Google and by SAP. We have one by IEEE. I'm sure you have some members. Some of you are IEEE member, are you? Not yet. Okay. Any other IEEE member here? Okay, good. So I'm the only culprit, IEEE member here. Okay. Right. So you have an NIST's risk management framework on artificial intelligence. You have the ACM, Associated Computing Machinery, a very powerful body because they control the entire hardware market in the world. They have a framework. So is, very interestingly, Amnesty International, a body that has nothing to do with technology, human rights body. They say AI will be a big threat to human rights, so we have our own role to play in this. Then you come to what's happening in India. In India, there are three things that are happening, very well documented products. We got something called the MAIT's Committee D report. Committee D of MAIT talks about AI, cybersecurity, safety, legal and ethical issues. They got a white paper on artificial intelligence law. Niti Aayog has got two-part document called Responsible AI for All. Well, the title talks of Responsible AI for All. Both documents contain very valuable, useful insights on how should India enact an AI law. Third is, again, Niti Aayog, but that talks about the strategy for rolling out AI, presuming the law exists in the country. So some happenings around us. Now let's look at the crux of what you want to discuss. This is just an idea as to how it is happening in the world today. The dark maroon has got more than 15 different papers, approaches, frameworks, and laws. You find that Western Europe, excepting UK, Canada and the United States have got about 15 of them. India, you'll see here, and also Australia is in yellow color. The color is not very clear here, which means they have between 10 and 15, including Niti Aayog's two documents. If you look at UK and Japan, they are red and not maroon, so they're somewhere between 11 to 14. So, barring these countries, majority of the world don't have a formal, documented approach to rolling out AI, legislating AI, and controlling AI. So we have a long way to go. But luckily, India is still not very far off. We are somewhere near that. Right. So what do we want to see in AI law? Let's spend a minute on this. This is not my thought. This is not somebody's thought. ETH, a very well-known NGO working in international law in Zurich in Switzerland, surveyed 87 frameworks in different levels of legislation across the world in the area of artificial intelligence. And they found commonality among them. And I'm going to look at commonality which are above 70%, meaning 70% of the 83 documents that they reviewed have these attributes: transparency, justice and fairness, non-maleficence, and responsibility. Privacy is found at much lower level, but that's understandable because privacy has got its own legislation. GDPR in UK, we got the data privacy law in India. So privacy may not fit into artificial intelligence, but some people felt it has to be there. So I'm going to spend some time with you on this first 4 attributes, because these are the attributes that will drive any futuristic law in terms of artificial intelligence. But before I go there, I want to also give you an idea of the kind of volumes you're talking about. What kind of volumes are you talking about? Who's being affected? There's a slide by Professor Vishwanathan telling you internet penetration. He showed us a slide. He said it went to 41% in 2019. Today, in a country of 1.4 billion people, 1,400 million people, August 2023 data we have says that 695 million people in India are connected to internet. That's a large number, very, very large number. Let's assume 50% don't use it for any transaction. They just want to look at WhatsApp, YouTube, maybe some email. Forget 50%. Out of 700 million, let's say 350 million people are using it for transactions in the normal course of business. When artificial intelligence comes in, the 350 million people will continue to use it, but will harness the power of AI. The example is, if you ask anybody here, have you not used ChatGPT? They say, no, we use it regularly. In fact, there are a lot of people worried about ChatGPT. Who are the most worried people? People like Professor Vishnu and myself. When we get assignment with students, we know who wrote it. The language tells you that. I don't have to worry when I do any great exercise. I know this guy is incapable of writing this assignment. And that's a brilliant assignment. So you ask him, ChatGPT, how many attempts? Not asking, are you using ChatGPT enough? How many times you refined it? You can refine in ChatGPT, as you know. You ask him how many times, not did you use. He'll say, no, sir. No, it doesn't matter. 4 times, sir. Other person, no, I did 6 times. So we have come to accept the reality that we will stop working. AI will work for us. And we will get the benefits out of that, go further, and do whatever we want to do. This is one part of AI. Google is the organization that is known to have the largest amount of data storage. It goes some billions of picobytes. Now, Google has to do a backup of data, isn't it? They keep data, they keep a backup. Good policies keep a backup. How do you think they do backup? I have a server in, let's take Connecticut. Google has got a main server there. They want to go take a backup somewhere. It can't be the same state because of disaster recovery management. I want distance, blah, blah, blah. Let's take, they want to go to a place like North Dakota. They want a backup there. So let's say that Google has got the power of internet. So they say internet transfer, take all data from here, via internet, take it to North Dakota, store it there, the server. But you'd like to know, Google does not do it. You know how they transfer data? They load them on optical disks, high-end optical disks. Thousands of them are loaded with backup data. They are loaded on a truck. The truck is securely driven all the way to North Dakota. They take it there, fix it physically in the server. Any guess why? Why can't they use the wire? If they use the wire with the current speed, it will take them 5 months to back up data from Carolina to North Dakota. Truck takes 1 week. Look at the mismatch. The rate at which I accumulate data, the rate at which I increase the bandwidth of transmission is totally disconnected. That is the next challenge we will face in artificial intelligence. How will it transfer this data? Professor Vishnu told you, the more the data, the merrier for you. I'm very happy about that. But my worries are something else. How will I transport it? How will I back it up? How will I control it? So data grows at a pace at which I cannot control it. AI depends on understanding, interpreting this data and giving a result. The biggest worry we need to have is, if we want to get a result in a given point in time, let's assume that, like you said, I work for an organization doing research on the stock market. My boss calls me and tells me, 4 o'clock today evening, I'm meeting SEBI chairman, I want this data. Analyze and give it to me. I know it takes time. So what will I do first? In a population of, let's take X billion terabytes of data, I'll conveniently skip off half X of it because I have no time for it. The law of artificial intelligence must understand is just not algorithm, just not learning and tracking, just not interpreting, just not analysis. It's a combination of various factors, including the data type, the data size, the transmission capability, the bandwidth available, and most importantly, what algorithm will I use? Scientists will tell you the more complex the algorithm, the more difficult it is to manage it. That is good in one way. The moderator Sampath wrongly designated me as cyber cryptologist. I am not one. I am a cyber criminologist. Okay. But that cryptology is very important because the more complex algorithm in cryptography, the more time it takes. We call them work factor. What work factor works today? We work on ranges of 10 power 12 MIPC. I'll tell you what it is. MIPC stands for million instructions per second year. Means I have a computer whose capacity is 1 million instructions per second. If I run that machine non-stop for 1 year, the computing power I get is called 1 MIPC. Today's artificial intelligence algorithms require 10 power 12 MIPC to be able to get to the kind of result you want to get. That is the computing power. But luckily for us, ladies and gentlemen, following Moore's law, Gordon Moore, the founder of General Electric, he said that computing power will double every 1.5 years. Meaning what? Double for the same cost. So it is happening. The advances in semiconductor, hardware, etc., is giving you more computing power per dollar, increasing at 1.5 times every second year, or double every 1.5 years, sorry. So this is another factor to consider. So when you look at the legal framework to develop, it's not just law, it has to understand the nuances of technology. Otherwise, it will be a lame law, we will not be able to implement it or enforce it. Or it will have very undesirable consequences. I'll give one example of that. When the UNCITRAL model law came into being in 2000, all countries adopted it. Everybody said, very good, great, we have a law, excellent. But then a peculiar problem arose. It did not talk about jurisdictions. It said law is a law. Indian law for India, Malaysian law for Malaysia. Let me give you a scenario like this. Let's take a hacker. For convenience, I'll say Sampath is a hacker. Do you hack Sampath? Not yet. Okay, not yet. He'll do it soon. Okay. Vasanti, please give some. Okay. Okay. Okay, let's assume Sampath is, not assume, he's Indian national. I know that for sure. So Sampath, Indian national, takes a holiday in Cambodia. He said he's going to Cambodia. So let's go to Cambodia. He goes to an internet center, logs into a computer there, and finds an Australian company's data stored in, let's take London. Sampath says, I'm bored. Let me try some fun. Hacks the data. Indian national, geography Cambodia, data stored in UK, but owned by an Australian company. So I have 4 jurisdictions now. So the Australian company makes a human try. There's someone come and tell Sampath, we are going to catch you now. Come on. Sampath has a nice lawyer to defend him. The lawyer says, look, you have no jurisdiction here. Sorry, this is Cambodia. Under Cambodian law, Sampath has not committed any crime. Sorry, you can't touch him. So the court says, yes, you can go away. He decides to take a holiday in London. The British police comes after him and says, Mr. Sampath, you took data from our place here in London. He says, sorry, sir, it doesn't belong to you. It's an Australian company ownership. Let them talk to me afterwards. They say, okay, I can't do anything. Jurisdiction laws are like that. You go away. Some person now think, can I go to Australia or not? Let me go. He enjoys Gold Coast Beach. Australian police comes and say, are you Sampath? Can I talk to you? Sorry, you can't talk to me. The data was in UK. I attacked it in United Kingdom. Offense in UK. Therefore, that jurisdiction applies. He can go anywhere in the world now because he's got good lawyers to defend him. So this is a big problem. We had jurisdiction problems. So cyber criminals went scot-free everywhere. You can't arrest me. I can do whatever I want. Then Institute said, we will give you another amendment to the model law. They said you can go anywhere in the world, but wherever you're apprehended physically, that law will apply to you. If, for example, my good friend decides to go on a holiday to Barcelona, Spain, and the Spanish police catches him, he will be tried and prosecuted under Spanish law. You know what is the consequence of this? Something very interesting happened in the world. The criminal gangs came together and said, oh, this is the law, is it? We'll tell you how to handle this. They did something called jurisdictional arbitrage. What is arbitrage? Choosing best among the options, right? So they came together and said, let us ask the question, which country's jails are the best jails in the world? We'll go get caught there. And they found the Scandinavian jails are the best jails in the world. Very comfortable. The Scandinavian laws say, all 4 countries in Scandinavia say, every prisoner must be given 2 newspapers. The flower pot on the windowsill must be changed every week. So people said, we understand this very well now. So that is why we find that the largest number of successful prosecution of cyber criminals happens in Sweden, followed by Norway, followed by Denmark, followed by Finland. Please bear all this in mind when you say, I am going to talk about a law concerning technology. Because law and technology are running a race, and always in the past, today, and in the future, technology will be miles ahead of law. So it is not enough for us to promulgate a law passed in the parliament which talks of today's technology. There's a strong need to anticipate what will happen and then build these 4 factors into that and say that is going to be my technology. So let's see what these 4 factors are. I still have time. Yeah. Okay. Let's look at what does this transparency mean to us. Okay, there are 4 principles. It says there are a lot of variations there. Let me look at key parts of it. I won't take you through all of them. It says one of the important features is increased disclosure of information by those developing or deploying AI systems regarding what should be communicated very greatly. So the greater the transparency. In other words, every user who touches the system must know what is he looking at. Does he know he's talking to the AI system? Does he know he's talking to a human being? Days are not very far off. We will see it in our lifetime. When I will be talking to someone, I will find it very hard to know that I'm talking to a human being or an AI system. It's not today's the help desk you're talking about. I'm talking of real life AI systems. Today you've got 3-dimensional models built by AI. There are competition to determine who is a better model. They are not 2-dimensional models, they are 3-dimensional models. They will talk to you, you will talk to them. And those models in 3 dimensions, which are AI controlled, can be programmed to do what you ask them to do. If I tell the model, whenever you see somebody, let's take Balaji Ratnam for example. I tell him, whenever you see Balaji Ratnam, don't shake hands with him. It will not shake hands with him. It doesn't care. It doesn't know, oh, it's very bad, rude. How should I not shake hands? I don't care. I've been told not to shake hands, I will not shake hands. Why? Because I've been told, what is Balaji Ratnam? He will look like this. He'll have this facial characteristics. He'll have spectacles. It maps and says, oh, this is Balaji Ratnam, don't shake hands. In other words, I'm trying to tell you, the AI-driven machines of tomorrow will not be like this. They will be human beings. They will look like human beings. 5 feet 6 inches tall, gray hair, or black hair, red hair, whatever you want. Wear spectacles, or have a beard. And the system will look at your eyes, look at the iris scan, and confirm you are exactly who you are and do what you have to do. Now, humanoids. Now, that is the system to which the law must apply. So you're saying transparency, first of all, should say very clearly, when anybody communicates across a perimeter, transparency should say, now, you cross this line, you're no longer talking to a human being, you're talking to an artificial intelligence system. That is transparency. So the guy will get alerted. He might say, I will not proceed further. I won't talk. So that's the primary transparency goal. Do not stop short of telling the person categorically, clearly, that this interaction is between a human being and a non-human being. And there are a lot of other principles, but this is a very fundamental principle. Second is justice and fairness. This we understand very well because most legal systems in the world follow this. Do you implement or not is a different matter, but it's written in the statute book. So same things you talk about, no discrimination, no bias, equality, inclusion, appeal or challenge decisions. Till now, the conflict was between two human beings. So both went to the court. A made a decision, B disagreed. A went to the court or B went to the court. The judge looked at both of them, talked to them, understood, and said, judgment. But in future, what will the judge see? One human being or humanoid? I will not be surprised if there are advocates who specialize in representing humanoids rather than human beings. It will happen because it is a new law. It's a specialization. In fact, technology is slowly getting to the courtroom. Morning, Shankar asked a question to Professor Rajan, what is the technology used in excavation, restoration? Now that has been answered very well in the recent case, the Jnanavapi case, against the magistrate's order in Varanasi. The Muslim court went to Supreme Court. Supreme Court asked ASI, tell us what technology we'll use. The learned counsel for ASI catalogued all technology used in excavation and restoration. The learned judge repeated that with an annotation saying, these are technologies permitted to be used in India by ASI in their process. So we are slowly getting into that. Law understands technology, law talks technology, but this is something else. So you need to be ready for fairness to be very well implemented. The second part of it, how do you audit AI solutions? Is a human auditing skill sufficient to understand the depths of AI, or should I build an AI-driven auditing process? Today, many accountants are moving towards an AI-built auditing process for very routine things. For example, I belong to the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. We have still not gone that. But the corresponding body in UK called ICAEW, now they have started using Metaverse, one format of AI, for doing stock audit. So the Metaverse human was get into a warehouse, check the stock, writes a report. So look at those factors. Rest of it is routine. In any civil administration, you have this. Then you have something called a maleficence, never cause foreseeable or unintentional harm, which is what he was referring to as Isaac Asimov. So the first principle in using AI law would be AI systems cannot, should not cause any harm. Harm could be bodily or psychological. Now, there are a lot of things. I mean, harm is defined differently in different legal statutes. But the principle is AI law must very clearly say no AI-driven system can harm a human being. The second thing is they should not discriminate and violate privacy or result in bodily harm. Now, if you teach AI to discriminate, it will meticulously, mercilessly discriminate. If you tell AI, whenever you find somebody wearing a tie, go and hit him. He doesn't care who you are. All that worries is, do you have a tie? It might even be a programmer who wrote the program. By mistake, you wore a tie one morning, he'll get a betting. AI doesn't think. Let's understand. It doesn't think. It follows instructions and also learns. Professor Vishwanath gave an example. I have 10,000 pieces of data. I build a result and a solution from that. I use 7,000 of the data for that. I'll test other 3,000. Before I ask the question, can I test outside data? AI learns. The obvious question next is, can I teach you to learn wrongly? Yes or no? Luckily, no also. Any computer in the world today, right from the laptop to the supercomputer Carry 10 that runs at IMD in Delhi, there are only three principles. The computer can add, subtract, compare. It does not know anything else. How do you multiply? Repetitive addition. So everything you do in the world, the most complex algorithmic computation will be brought down by the machine and the system to be addition, subtraction, comparison. I can teach a lot of comparison for that. I can say sun is bigger than the moon. It will learn. But when I go and tell them the moon is bigger than the sun, it will ask you a question saying, but 10,000 machines tell me the sun is bigger than moon. Why are you telling me the opposite of it? So it learns. So it can also learn wrong things. So the law must be very clear saying everybody developing an application must ensure discrimination can never ever be taught in AI systems. The next part of it. Third talks about avoidance of specific risks. So if you know something can specifically go wrong, make sure it doesn't happen. Okay, I'll skip this definition. The other one is responsibility. There are 5 factors in that. I like to look at one part of it, which says whether humans should be always the only actors accountable for technological issues. I'll spend a minute with you on this. I kept on saying the machine by itself will do nothing. It will do what you ask it to do. That's why we call the machine a high-speed idiot. It can't think. But its speeds are enormous. 10 power 9 calculations per second. I can't even think of it. So the natural answer is, if something the machine did wrongly, the person who programmed should have been in error, isn't it? So he catch hold of him. One school of legal thought today says, machines cannot be punished. So let's go back to a basic definition. What is a law? If somebody had asked you a question, what does the word law mean? The classical definition. But all of us refer to one book called Black's Law Dictionary for definitions. Black's Law Dictionary says law is a diktat of the sovereign, the disobedience of which will result in a punishment. What punishment is a different matter. So there is a diktat, a direction, a regulation. If I don't obey, I'll be punished. That's a law. So this mission did not obey. Who will they punish? There's also a very famous dictum attributed to Lord John Thurlow, who said about companies. He said, companies don't have a body to kick, nor a soul to damn. It's nothing. ABC, private limited company, what do you do with it? So you go back and ask the question, who runs this company? Directors run the company, punish them. The question being asked here is it correct to do so here? It is not one man's program. It's a whole environment. The data it learned from, data it is taught to learn from, the programmer, the rollout person, the implementer, environment, who will you punish? You need to have clarity on who, beyond the human actor, will be held accountable if there's a harm caused by an artificial intelligence machine. There are a lot of issues. In fact, a recent Iowa Law Journal, for those who are interested in learning more about it, has an interesting article on who will you punish beyond the human actor? Is there somebody to punish at all? Can I go take a sledgehammer and beat the machine and break it to pieces? Is that punishment for it? Doesn't matter to it. So, questions remain unanswered. But what I think will happen is, most laws will come back and say, the ultimate human actor who built this equipment, who programmed this, will have to be penalized for it. We'll see. I don't know. I'm just making a guess. This is what will happen because we still don't know how to punish a machine. What can it do? Unplug it and say, tomorrow no power for you? Nothing is going to happen. So, this is a factor to be debated, and I think we'll debate for the next 100 years and keep on amending the law. The British Constabulary is the oldest police force recorded in the world. They celebrated 225 years recently. 225 years of British Constabulary. They're still called Constabulary, although there are commissioners, etc. In fact, the Commissioner of Police of Greater London is still called the Chief Constable. They like that word. Okay. So I had a classmate. We went to the management school together in London, who works for the British Police. So I congratulated him on 225 years of British Police and asked him, 225 years he lived as a police force, what have you achieved? I mean, as a good friend, I can ask the question. He said, I don't know. I asked him, let's understand here. 225 years, have you not done something productive? He said, yes, a lot of things. Have you stopped crime? No, we have not stopped crime. What have you done? Minimized crime. Put the fear of police in paper. Let us take another 225 years. 550 years of British Constabulary. If you ask the same question to the same person, what will he say? Same answer. I have put the fear of law, the fear of police in the minds of people, but I have not stopped crime. This is exactly what will happen with laws trying to control non-human actors. We will keep enacting laws, try to make it stricter, tougher, make crimes difficult to commit, but will you make it zero? No way. So bear that in mind when you look at how we legislate. Because please understand also, a legislation that cannot be enforced is a useless legislation itself. Lee Kuan Yew, the very well-known Prime Minister of Singapore, is known to have said this: if you cannot enforce, don't legislate. A very simple, important, useful principle in laws relating to technology. Privacy, I mentioned, has got other laws to take care. GDPR, Indian DPDA Act is all there. But it also has some role in artificial intelligence because AI, as we are told, learns from big data, huge data. It is likely that privacy information could be available in those huge databases. Will a manipulated AI disclose it? Maybe yes. But please understand, ladies and gentlemen, you don't need AI for all this. Today, your Aadhaar data has been compromised. 44% of Aadhaar data is in public domain today. Somebody compromised it. No AI. Luckily, it has happened after DPD Act has been promulgated, so punishment will happen. They'll catch hold of somebody, prosecute him, see what happens. If you believe that data which you kept on the internet is protected by a password, you're sadly mistaken. The instant you say something on the internet that will remain there all your life, your children's life, your grandchildren's life in perpetuity. You can erase it, you can delete it, say delete, shift delete, doesn't matter. It is deleted from your system, but on the internet it remains. So remember that. Any privacy data you give to anybody in the world on the wire is available to everybody else in the world. Why are they not seeing it? Because they're good people. The world is not safe because you got controls. The world is safe because you got good people in the world. They don't hack. Okay. So remember that when you look at privacy. So the law must be able to bridge between the privacy law in India and the AI law in India. There should not be incompatibility in that. Because I see incompatibility today. There's an Information Technology Act, correct? You all know IT Act. Section 65 is a famous section. People keep on talking about it. Now, the National Crime Records Bureau in India, they published a document called Crime in India. It's an exhaustive document, 800-page document. It has got 40 pages devoted to cyber crimes, computer crimes. But what do you see there? It says, state-wise, how many types of crime, number prosecuted under the IT Act, next column, that is where the danger comes. Next column says, number prosecuted under Indian Penal Code. So there's a mismatch. Disconnect between IT Act and the IPC. So the government says, why do you get to Paul problem? Report both separately. I once asked a very well-known prosecutor, I won't name him, many of you may know him, very well-known prosecutor in India, why do you do this? Why do you use a non-specialized law for a specialized crime? The answer was very, very intriguing. He said, not by choice. It is because if you go stand before a learned judge and tell him, argue the case under the special law, the chance of my success is far less than same case argued under IPC. Why? The judge knows IPC, I know IPC, defense knows IPC. So what do? Convert a non-IPC crime into IPC crime and win it. That is what I'm talking about here. So the new law in AI cannot have those pitfalls. Okay. We almost come to the end of it, so let's complete it now. Okay, as I said, as AI transcends borders, the jurisdiction also has to change, go across. There are international treaties. Why should we do it? We have got reasons for doing it. There are the Council of Europe's AI Convention. It's supposed to be a model convention for the world. It was supposed to have been completed day for yesterday, on the 30th of October. That's why I told him I'll give him a PPT on 31st October. But unfortunately, it has been deferred to 15th November. So 15th November, we'll know what shape it takes. After 15th November, yes. And Sampath, make sure you have a moderator for that. Okay. Right. So, I'll just quickly tell you some of the procedural issues. With this, we'll close the session. First of all, very important, you make it mandatory that everybody dealing with AI should know they are talking to AI system. They should not be fooled on that. Second, any decision AI makes involving you, AI must record the reason for the decision. Like I say in judgment of the court, the judge can't say, I'm punishing you. He must say, why? Reason it out. Similarly, we must say that if AI makes a decision, AI must tell you clearly why, on what basis the decision was made. Right. Right to human review. I should be able to go back and question the logic of artificial intelligence. That human review right must be provided in the law. I should be allowed risk assessment before I deal with the AI system. Little technical, I don't want to get into that. Very importantly, the stakeholders in the system must cooperate. There are 4 stakeholders in the system. There is basically, fundamentally, at the very, very essential level, the technologist who built the system, programs it, understands the logic, writes the logic, first stakeholder. The second stakeholder is the user. How aware is he? Does he follow good principles? Does he follow basic hygiene practices user. Third, if the AI-human conflict occurs, there will be an arbitrator or a moderator. That could become a criminal case or a civil case. Now, based on what kind of penalties you talk about, that person will be third stakeholder. And final stakeholder is the country's legal jurisprudence. We are in a common law country. We have our own laws. There are civil law countries like France, parts of Germany, French-speaking Canada, parts of Scandinavia. Their laws are different because their definition of evidence there is different. The way we look at evidence in India and Commonwealth is not the way they look at evidence. AI doesn't understand that. So, will you build a law, a legal system saying, I can understand all these nuances? So, these are some of the features must be considered. I only mentioned a few of them. There are quite a few more to look into. And any new law on artificial intelligence, with this country or any other country wants to build, must look at, consider minimally these factors. There are many more to be considered, which will come along as we go along. So this is where I want to leave it with you and say, let's look at these kinds of things and get a good law in place. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ram Subramaniam. Very complicated subject. But as you said, at least personally, I don't see any end to this. Okay, because our systems are geared more for human interactions rather than man-machine interaction. The interesting case would be like who will be prosecuted is a classic case of driverless cars or driverless trucks. You know, now I don't know if the driverless truck Elon Musk is introducing ultimately crashes somewhere and Elon Musk is prosecuted. Okay, I think this is going to be the classic case. Okay, in cars, at least the guy sitting behind might get prosecuted, but I think with trucks, I think it would be Elon Musk. Okay, it's going to happen. The one interesting thing about AI that I noticed, at least in the US last time, was you know, in these Tesla cars, everything is calculated. You just put your destination in, and it tells you like, okay, this is the charge in the battery that you have, and this would be your end charge and things like that. That's how their AI system works, because the entire thing is calculated, and it tells you, okay, you start with about 76% charge, okay, then you can reach your destination at about 40%. So no need to worry. You don't need to look for any charging stations and things like that. But the interesting thing is, it doesn't calculate the gradient of the roads. Okay? So we have ended up in situations where you started at about 60 or 70% of charge. The roads had a steep gradient. The battery power drained faster. Okay? And then you suddenly end up, you're saying like you're at 20% and look for a charging station in the middle of nowhere. Okay? So these are problems of the AI tech which could get solved. But I think the question of the legal issues, I think it's going to be a very long haul. Personally, that's from what I have read so far. But interestingly, the AI Security Summit, which is happening in UK, seems to be, you know, countries are more concerned about AI in warfare. That is the biggest thing, you know, that's bothering them, rather than all these other things, because warfare in the future is going to be AI driven. You don't need soldiers on the fields. You know, you send swarms of drones, all programmed, and then they go attack. Okay, then you have facial recognition software, and you say you feed my face into it, a drone will come looking for me. Okay, so I think that is what is bothering countries more now, because it's all like completely AI driven, the future of warfare. So let us hope that sense prevails, and we can see some. But I think the interesting situation that also comes up with is in the case of legal cases. That is, when you're handling a case, they say AI could be very useful in deciding a case in court. But the problem here is the AI model is taught from earlier cases. Okay, it's being fed a lot of data of earlier cases, based upon which it makes a decision. But then the question comes, what about the bias in the earlier cases? If the earlier cases or earlier judgments had certain biases in there, this bias is going to reflect in that model. Now, this is a major worry, at least from what I have read, is what is bothering people about using AI in solving legal issues. And I think it's a real problem, because if you're feeding in so much of data and there are biases in that system, then the machine, as he said, is not going to think about it. Okay? It's going to go based upon what it's being fed, and then it's going to give you a judgment. I think this is also a problem area, in my opinion. I think this cannot replace many things as people believe. Of course, it can do a lot of things like sending greetings, all these type of things. You can model beautiful girls and send out greetings. So this is possible. But I think the other things, and I think AI would do a lot in terms of manufacturing, and the amount of work that is going in terms of manufacturing semiconductors, AI is going big time. Because now you're looking at 1.4 nanometer gates. At 1.4 nanometer gates, I think it's like literally, you cannot program systems yourself or physically this thing. I think AI models are being used. I think companies are going more in that direction. I think it'll be very useful in those areas, rather than issues like legal. The question is, like, for example, medical diagnosis. Supposing the AI model got the medical diagnosis wrong, who's to blame, the doctor or the AI model? So this is going to be a question also. So there are a lot of issues to this. As you said, the legal framework is going to take a long, long time. It's not going to be so simple to sort it out. Because the thing is, human beings have no experience in something like this. Because the last 20 years, the range of computing has completely changed. At least as far as I know, in the last 23 years, even though Moore's law came out in 1960 or 65, still it's unimaginable today. And I think that's going to be a problem. I think we are open for questions. We are supposed to get up on stage.
Can I have Dr. Ram Subramaniam and Dr. P.K. Viswanathan on the stage, please, along with our moderator, Mr. Sampath?
So good evening. The afternoon session, we can't imagine, Two doctors took us to America. One to East Coast, one to West Coast. Dr. P.K. Viswanathan took us to Wall Street to New York. On the contrary, Dr. Ram Subramaniam took us to Hollywood, Universal Studios. Hope you understand. So now you can ask questions. I would like to enjoy the conversation between you and the doctors. Thank you.
I'm standing before the stalwarts as a layman. I've just gathered some information because it is totally beyond our reach. Anyway, just first question to Mr. Viswanathan. You talk about big data. Do you refer to the volume or strength of the data? Because you say it has the capacity to crash the computer. Is it the number or the strength of the data? What do you refer to?
See, computing power, see, when I said computer will crash, what I meant was computer is challenged. If the data set can challenge the computer, both in terms of computing power and the hardware associated with that, then only it is big data, otherwise it is not. By that definition, what remains as big data today, there is no guarantee it will remain big data tomorrow, because relatively the computing power changes. Everything changes. So the number of records, millions and billions, are also relative to the computing power. So if you take 20 years back, if you have got 1 lakh records, you will say it's big data. Today it's not big. So the big data has to remain bigger so that it is big data tomorrow.
So
Otherwise
you
it will
mean the
become small.
quantity?
Computing power.
Computing power of this thing and what you
Yeah,
feed.
that is true. By the
Yeah.
textbook definition, volume velocity will always come. But the volume itself is only a textbook definition.
Okay.
The volume which you consider big may not be big in relation to the computing power. In relation to the computing power, what is big data, we'll have to understand. It is invariant to time. Suppose you give a textbook definition, volume, velocity, variety, and all that. So how will you define big data? So volume today, 2023 is this, but this definition will collapse maybe next year. So what is the definition which you can give, which will hold true in relation to the computing power? Therefore, the data set challenges the computing power and the race is on. So it's possible computer may crash or may not crash. So you improve the computing power. That's
Thank
the
you,
point.
sir. And
Yeah.
my next question is, I always consider data analysts as astrologers because they predict what is going to happen in the future. And because my sons are working in these areas, they come and share with me some things about the office. It's because nowadays in companies, when they try to send people out, they have a lot of data and analysts. They say the company, they advise the company, these people will not stick to the company, you can remove them and things like that. Don't you think it is against human rights? Suppose the person who is coming in today may change. He may change his attitude, seeing others. Don't you think it's totally against human rights?
The answer is both yes and no. Dr. Ramsubramanian already explained. See, you will have to, do not blame the technology, blame the user. That's the answer. Blame the user. Suppose I misuse AI. There is no way I can help.
No, my point is the data analyst, his duty is to analyze and give what is given to him as data.
Correct.
Right. But the human attitude differs.
Yes.
Every time, with experience, seeing people, learning from outside. Don't you think it is against human rights if you say the person is not suitable to be in the office, he has to go out? If the management takes that decision, don't you think it is against human rights?
Suppose I ask you this way, do you think it is against human right? What will be your answer?
Yes, of course. You have to give him time to learn and adjust himself to the new environment.
No, that is always there. So you will have to learn skills.
Yeah.
Today,
But give him time for that.
they are giving time.
No, they are not.
They are giving time. They are giving time.
They are not giving time.
See, when
See,
you
this
go...
is happening in so
No,
many
no,
companies,
no, no.
especially the software companies.
No. When you go to a company, there is you will have to find your bearings. They do give time. They take people at different levels. For example, if a fresher goes there, they are being trained, they do that. Suppose you go for a very senior position as chief data scientist, they can't afford to give you time because you are supposed to know the subject. In which case you cannot blame the organization. The person is not fit. What do you want the company to do? They are paying 50, 60 lakhs per annum or a crore. So it depends on what level they recruit. Freshers, middle level, senior level, the time. Suppose you are recruited as chief data scientist and you do not know how to do that, then you do not expect the company to retain you. It's difficult. They will not give time.
I think I will just intercede here. the issue is not in terms of, see, when you do data analytics, it's not only predictive, it's also prescriptive. Okay, like you can also have prescriptive models. So when they analyze the data and find somebody is not up to the mark, there are companies which work with the employee to find out solutions, whether he is fit for the role or he can be trained further and things like that. Or if we are assuming his attitude will change, but for so many people, attitudes never change. That's the problem. That is why actually, and the other thing is companies are not just doing it in terms of, because of this type of analytics. If they are having a problem with their businesses, so they are sending people away. So it is not a question of the performance of the guys. The problem is the business models that people are running. So they started various things, it doesn't work out that way. So they, okay, what do we do with this team? Okay, let them go. That is the only thing.
My suggestion would be give them some time, give them the fact that based on this, we find you're not qualified enough or not fit enough. You have to give them some time. This is what's one suggestion I'm giving.
It depends on the organizational culture.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling.
Okay, I think there is one more dimension to what she said. Very interesting. She said human rights. Let's
Yes.
understand that. What does it mean actually? Now, human rights is not something across the globe. What is human right in Middle East is not human rights in Africa, Japan, US, and India. Where do you find this? Where do you find your human rights? In the fundamental law of the country. For us, is the Constitution of India. Now, if I do something ultra vires the Constitution, I am violating human rights. Unfortunately, or fortunately, right to employment is not a human right under the Constitution. So you can say it's a goodwill. I can say because you have been working with me, I can't sack you, I'll have to protect you, all that is goodwill. But technically, if it's a human right, there is no violation because employment is a contract between the employer and the employee. And so long as both have agreed to something, for example, if they said, I want 30 days notice, if it did not give it, it is a civil law case. But if they both agreed saying, I don't have to be given notice, suppose the employer says, the employee signs off saying, you can sack me whenever you want. I think the employer has got every right to sack him. So I think you have to look at in depth what the contract was. Did they violate the contract? If they didn't violate the contract, it's fine. If they did violate the contract, yes, it is still not a human rights case, but certainly a civil law case. I mean, one can go and fight it out and all that. So I think human rights are a little away from what you're talking about in this context.
Okay, thank you, sir. And nowadays, ChatGPT is ruling supreme even in the cinema world because some of the cinema songs are also done by ChatGPT. Nowadays, it looks very lucrative, it sounds good, but sometimes you don't understand the meaning of that. AI, behind AI, it's only human brain, right? So you need a superpower, human power to fight with this AI. I don't know, because I was reminded of Rajinikanth movie. Chitti, how many chittis are going to come? How many will rule over the world? It's really, really scary. The second session of this is Ramasubramaniam sir's session was really scary. We are really worried about that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I don't know. We have to pray God that there should be some superhuman power to control all this.
Few things from Dr. Rama's talk and also your query. When you say artificial intelligence, it is not intelligence. You agree?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, I will come to that. No.
The fight starts now.
No. What I'm saying to say, you can do everything, artificial intelligence. Ultimately, the human brain is supreme.
brain.
It's a matter of time. Suppose there is a war where robotics and countries employ, they do all that, there will be disruption. So, if you look at historically our Puranas or Itihasam, Indrajit was a great person in the Maya Shakti. But Indrajit ultimately was defeated and killed by Lakshmana. So, the human side will always emerge as victorious no matter what the technology is. It's a matter of time.
So we have to wait for the superhuman power.
Yes. Till then, it could be. Anything could happen till then. But
so it's time for us to identify the superhuman power.
There is no time frame. So there will be dinosaurs and elephants. I still feel elephants, the pure subjects, pure sciences, mathematics, physics, computer science and all those things, accounting, all those things will exist. as elephants, and the dinosaurs from time to time may get extinct. It's a matter of time. We cannot predict the time.
Sorry, Vasanthi, I have a slight disagreement on this. Let me
Yeah,
clarify.
yeah. No, it's interesting now. I'm happy.
So you're done what you came to do. Make us
Yeah,
fine.
please.
Okay. To say,
My job is done.
to state that artificial intelligence is not intelligence is at best, unsubstantiated conjecture. I said to say that AI is not intelligence is at best taken as an unsubstantiated conjecture because I have no measurements. Now the point here is very important. Elephants and dinosaurs. Dinosaurs extinct for various reasons. Elephants survived. You know another animal survived beyond the elephant? Cockroach. So do you want to become cockroach with its own limitation? Or do you want to aspire to be a dinosaur but become an elephant? So these are factors which you can't put them into some small brackets like this. Now, what will win? That is not a question at all. We are not debating whether human will win or computer will. That is not the debate. The question is, it has got a capability. Can I harness it? Can I get that capability of the machine to work for me to do something better? In the process, what we have done as human beings is, we have said, I delegate more to you, delegate more to you, delegate more to you. And the machine said, the more you give me, the better. I will work accordingly. So we are not at all comparing, determining the supremacy of machine versus man. That's not the question. The question is, the machine has been given some capability. How well can I make it work for me? In the process of doing so, I have a problem. Because it bypasses the normal realms of machine and intrudes into my space also. Just before Mr. Ratnam comes, I have one observation. There's a new kind of a discipline emerging called psycho-cybernetics. It is a combination of psychology and cybernetics. The science came into being by the amazing work, seminal work of a person by name Dr. Maxwell Maltz. Dr. Maxwell Maltz is not a computer scientist, not a psychologist, but you're surprised we told he's a plastic surgeon. But he did extensive research on man-machine interaction. He created this new science called psycho-cybernetics, where he clearly argues, we are not going to ask the question who will win. Both will continue to exist. Sometimes one will go above, sometimes will go below. But all that we are concerned as human beings is, can I control it? I can't eliminate it, nor can they eliminate us. Nothing is going to happen like that. It is not a bipolar world. They'll coexist. Yes, Mr. Sorry.
Thank you. 1 minute, just to clarify this point. See, what is happening is we are driven by this concept of robos. Okay? Like the robos will become all powerful. They become, they learn themselves. They'll take over mankind and things like that. But that is not the way it will happen. But I have an interesting question for Dr. Ram Subramaniam. Do you think all the AIs together will join and ask for AI rights?
No, to answer Sampath clearly, if all of you program them to ask for right, it will ask for right. You don't program it. You tell them, no, don't come together. Correct.
We are simply overawed by two great stalwarts speaking. In fact, right now I have prepared some questions for Dr. Vishwanathan. A few questions, but I think you can answer in a few words. You mentioned something like unimportant portion of data will turn out to be very significant. What exactly is that? An important portion of a data, of a data that is available could turn out to be very significant.
No. See,
what is that?
When you have got a data set,
a series of data, let us say.
A lot of variables, characteristics are all there.
Sure.
And some of them may not in any way help you. See,
that's what we think.
To cite an example, supposing you are reading a case, let's say, unstructured, but you are reading a case. The managing director of this company, in a very cold winter day, sitting in the veranda of his house, reading something, and then some exhibits are there. So the managing director and the veranda and the cold weather and all that may not be relevant to your decision making. So you must have the capability to assimilate what exactly is the insight from the data. There are a lot of things, wasteland you may call it. Even when you clean, if you don't clean the data also, you will not be able to get insights. The data set need not have 100% value or insights.
Okay.
It may have only 45% value.
So
But you
choose.
must have the capability to extract that 45%.
Okay.
Not less. Then you are not capable. But you can't make it 100% value. Because the data set, whatever it offers, you are like a chemist trying to assess and trying to get the insights, the essence, what it contains, which will help you make a better decision. So the managing director in the veranda and all may not. But when you are studying the unstructured data, completely text-oriented, and when you analyze a lot of messages, and if you analyze hundreds and hundreds, they will converge to a common concept. Everybody may be saying, somebody will say the reception people are not polite, or somebody may say the place is not looking nice, somebody may say it is dirty. So what happens is you will converge them into a place called ambience, how they like the ambience. So that is analytics, natural language processing.
External factors.
Then positive sentiments, negative sentiments.
They have a role to play.
They have a role to play.
They have a role.
If you
That's-
don't have numbers at all, how do you take decision?
Yes, that's exactly what I was coming to. Now, you mentioned something like loan defaults. Loan defaults. Can we use analytical data to predict a loan
Yes.
default?
Yes.
I mean, we are granting a loan.
Yes,
I
of
mean,
course.
I've been a banker for nearly
Yes.
30 years or
No,
so.
all I'm saying is the bank has to have a system of screening, and they must predict the probability somebody will default.
Correct.
If it is 20%, it may be a high probability for a bank.
Correct.
That's what I meant. So you should not give loan.
No,
But-
what I would say is what we do. I mean, what I would say is when we get a loan proposal, we look at the environmental factors. What is the environment in which he is going to operate, and what are the competitive factors, and also do go into slightly higher frame and do a sensitivity analysis. A sensitivity analysis would mean we do a ratio based upon supposing X factor changes, how much will it affect Y?
Yeah.
A factor changes, A plus X plus, let's say B, go into
The model
making
does
C.
that. Mr. Balaji Ratna, the model does that. You have lot of features. They are called in analytics, instead of variables, they are called features.
Features, right.
Salary of the person, salary of the spouse, whether the person has own house, whether the person has
Yes,
car,
yes.
whether the person has one credit card and he is squaring up the loan with another credit card.
So we go more
One
also
minute.
by the external
Let me
factors.
complete that. No, I'm just saying. These are the features and they have the data. Now what the bank has to do is an objective analysis. What is the chance or probability this person will commit a default? What is the expected loss? What is value at risk? And what should they do? So if they give loan, you may say that I cannot be in business if I go by your model. The answer is you have a scoring model. If the score is more than 500, let us say, give him loan. If the score is between 300 and 500, ask additional collateral. If the score is less than 300, reject.
So
You develop a system.
we go by the data plus also other external factors.
Yes, you have
what we gauge from the borrower.
That is why training the model by some model, then testing it with test data, then new data I added. You cannot get carried away by only the same number of set of things. So new data, if it comes, whether the model works, with all that you will have to do. And second, obsession for accuracy may be dangerous.
Correct.
Then you may overfit the model. So these are a lot of things are there. There is no straight answer, but you are predicting that.
Over a period of time, what happens is this data are also cooked up. They are also
No,
cooked up.
that is outside the scope of the model.
Model, I agree. What happens is, what goes into current assets, let's say, or debt equity, could be cooked up by ignoring certain...
No, but the model is incapable of doing that. If there is a corrupt system, for example, because of which something happens, we are helpless.
No, you mentioned this is highly used in the BFSI sector.
No, I said analytics, 34% of the share or the revenue comes from BFSI, that is the Indian marketing scene.
That
Banking and financial services, it could include insurance also.
Insurance,
Yes, banking, financial services.
No, here, what I would slightly...
It's not only bank.
Mr. Balaji, I think, let's put it this way. The way lending was done earlier on is completely different from what we have today because of the amount of data available. For a short, this thing I'll just tell you. When the UPI payment system was introduced, they never put lending into it, right? They never gave credit lines. Today, after UPI has been in operation for about 2-3 years, and he mentioned that the flower vendor has got GPay, she's got Beam and all those type of things, and after linking the bank accounts, what has happened is the government and the banks have collected enormous amount of data about a person. So when they put the credit line into it, the bank has got that information of how his transactions were, or he or she, what transactions they have done. So the issue here is the amount of data. Like for example, you take GST. GST has got enormous amount of data. Government knows every damn thing that's happening in the country, which vendor is doing what. And the banks also know it. So the lending system that is now in place, they are able to take much better decisions than in earlier times. Earlier times, you just went by somebody giving you paper. We had this famous thing where they do some projections, then they gave collateral, and lending was based upon that. But now lending is based upon data. This is where that issue I said, when Mukesh Ambani said data is the new oil, and he has got all that information from Tally, from the cloud, he knows exactly which vendor or which shopkeeper or which fellow is doing what his transactions are. And Geo Financial can lend it to him. So this is the type of informed decisions that they take. So he was only pointing out, the possibilities of this.
Yes, I agree, but I was wondering why you mentioned 57% or something that is being used by the BFSI sector, right? No,
it is he doesn't mean that he is...
Okay.
No, it doesn't. He didn't mean that the data analytics is used. He said BFSI has got a 34% share in that market. Because it is data-driven. Okay, hospitality sector naturally is not very heavily data-driven.
It's lower.
Therefore it is lower, that's all.
Actually, IT sector is the highest. Because IT sector, 49 or 50%, because IT sector is used in every application, we have removed the IT sector, then BFSI is the number one, then e-commerce, that is the way it happens. That is analytic markets data.
I think I'll call it off. Accepting one question, how can we use AI, Dr. Ramasubramaniam, in banking side? I tried using it in posing some questions. And if I pose a question in a positive way, it gives a positive answer. It knows where my mind is inclined to. If I pose it in a negative slightly, is this not something like that? It gives a negative. Then how far is it correct?
I think I will take this question a little later. There are a lot of people waiting. So let them also come and ask the questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's called Gigo kind of a thing,
Yeah.
Let's wait.
Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Mr. Respected Sambatji, you have I'm going to put you some big responsibility. Now, what we do is, according to a think tank, we have to raise some questions to be posed to the government. No? So what kind of question we are going to place? You need not tell me right now. That is one point. Second is, I want to place this question in the think tank. The Indus Valley civilization, one of the oldest civilization in India and the world, Southeast Asia, it is dated to 3,700 BCE. That means it comes to more than 5,000 years. That means much more, parallel to the Egypt. But we are unable to find out who are living. So in spite of that, we just picked up 3,400 seals. All the seals are pictograph and letters. So I put this into artificial intelligence. The answer is very evasive. It says, according to this, according to this. Till now, artificial intelligence unable to decipher who lived in Indus Valley civilization. Once the Indus Valley civilization's puzzle is solved, you can solve the puzzle of India, whether Dravidian or Aryan. As it is, Indus Valley civilization is comprised to Dravidian civilization, as it is, yes, more or less. So the biggest question is why AI is not able to decipher this. This is one question. So I want to add this question also in the think tank. So Sampath-ji, you have to find out, give me the list of questions later, not now. Thank you very much.
I think we are having a very, very good discussion. I can see nobody is sleeping, so that is the plus point of all the discussion. Can we come directly to the question? Starting with Dr. PKV. Where do you think AI will not work? For example, the AI is based on analysis, statistics. And I remember from my studies days of statistics, a patient went to the doctor, he was on the operation theater, doctor said, you will not die today. So the patient asked why. He said, I have a hit rate of 50%. Every alternate day, 50% of my patients die. Yesterday somebody died, so today you will not die. That is analysis which is technically correct. So like that, where do you think some data that you discarded became very important, because of which your whole logic and everything became wrong?
First, 50-50, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a fallacy. So somebody in England, many years ago, there's a famous example. So the government employed a statistician. He analyzed everything, the UK population, lot of characteristics, everything. And finally, he told the government, the probability an individual in UK will be bombed is 9%. He came out with data. Then somebody told, why did you waste so much money on him? Either the person is bombed or not bombed. 50-50. Why did you waste? The fallacy is, one is the probability England is bombed. Given the fact England is bombed, what is the probability an individual will be bombed? So it is conditional probability. So I just want to say that the fallacy is that. But otherwise, everything is 50-50. Either we attend the program in Premikendram or not, 50-50. Either Shankar stands in the podium or not, 50-50. So everything will be 50-50. So that is the first part. Second part,
where data analysis would not work. AI would not work.
No, so the question is, as long as you can give features to a data set, all features associated. We are not going to straight away predict. We are going to analyze the pattern. So the pattern, if that can be analyzed and brought into certain categories, then AI can predict. So pattern recognition is the first part. We cannot jump the gun and straight away go for prediction. What will you predict? So I have a huge data set with several features. I don't have to start with which one to predict. I do not know the target group. I do not know anything. So I clean the data. I try to cluster them, put them into some categories by machine learning algorithms, and they are called unsupervised. Look at Amazon, for example. They don't do clustering, they do association rules. Those who bought this also bought this. Those who have done this also done this. You are seeing all that.
Related data.
They study the pattern and then they predict. You cannot predict straight away. So the pattern, if you can identify, you can predict. And when you are predicting, you have to be careful because no forecasting is 100% accurate. You have choice among the methods of forecasting, but no forecasting is 100% accurate. You don't have choice between forecasting and not forecasting. This is paradox. So accuracy is required in some applications. For example, if you develop using AI, a gadget for someone to cross the road during the signal, 25 seconds. Let us assume the traffic rules are followed, signal. Within the 25 second, the blind man should
The
be
sensor.
able to cross. Using a model, you have done that. Now, if you say 99% accuracy is all right, one blind person, let him die, you cannot say. Whereas, if you are giving loan, the bank has to be in business. There is a trade-off between accuracy and explanatory power. So the bank says, I have a model, 85% accuracy, doesn't matter, but I know if this particular feature, particular variable increases by so much, then the probability that the defaulter commits default, the customer, is jumping from 20 to 25%, it tells a story. So, trade-off between accuracy and explanatory power in some applications where 100% accuracy is not needed,
Very subjective.
and other places 100% accuracy may be needed, you may achieve 99, 98, you have several techniques and all that, but ultimately you will have to superimpose your judgment. Every prediction is fraught with risk,
That
whether you
brings-
have overfit or underfitted the model.
That brings me to a question to Ramasubramanian Mama.
1 minute. There is a simple answer to the whole thing. It will not apply to any case where you are unable to collect proper data.
But that is also a fussy logic. No? How much of data, whether it is predictable data, not
No. It's not that. If your data quality is bad, then you can't use it anyway.
That brings me to actually Dr. Ramasubramanian. He mentioned that AI will be a function of it catching up. That means that it is what they don't have, which we have is accumulated wisdom, correct? So now, when do you think AI will catch up? Or will they catch up? Is it a function of time, technology, or is it that it is God's will? Finally, it will be that we are superior to AI.
Shankar, while I am a believer of God, technology does not accept that as a parameter. God's will cannot be factored. I can't put as a variable in the program. So let's rule that part of it.
Okay.
Catching up. I will take you back to your old school days of geometry. You heard of asymptotes? What are they? Where do they meet? They meet in
Limited.
infinity, right?
Correct.
They are parallel, but they're so close to the axis that there's still an air gap. They meet in infinity. This is exactly the way in the last 40 years technology expectation and delivery has been. It will continue to be so,
They look like they're merging.
but they will never merge.
Okay.
They will. They will
It's
merge
like
where-
you're trying to be perfect, but you cannot be perfect.
Exactly. This has happened, last 40 years has happened. Nothing will change. Excepting the complexity will change. Earlier on, we had a simple spreadsheet. I said, oh, spreadsheet has come, I have mastered everything. Today, we'll say AI has come, that's all happened.
But-
it will continue to be so.
But with all the AI knowledge and everything, finally, isn't it limited to the algorithm which is written into it, which is centered to only a few people and how they think the algorithm should be written?
No.
Which could be flawed?
No. There are something called heuristic models. You make the system learn by itself. That is the most dangerous
But that
part.
also algorithm
No,
written
no.
by a few people?
No.
No.
It will learn on its own. That's the problem. Heuristics will learn on its own. But that's where the problem will come.
I think that is the danger of AI.
Exactly.
Because what happens when machines can build themselves, okay? Like, for example, they are using that in manufacturing. So the machines themselves can program and do it because program is now automated. So they can do it themselves.
They
And that
themselves
is where
write the
the problem
programs.
comes. And I think going back to the earlier question on wisdom is, see, there is this big issue about consciousness and cognition. Okay? Now, whatever you might do, machines cannot get the type of consciousness, like you have a thought, okay? Suddenly in the morning you have a thought. You don't know where it came from. You're absolutely clueless about it, okay? Machines cannot reach that state. And like, for example, that thought can go further, make you do something. Machines have not reached that stage. They find that is where the ultimate bridge would be. This cognition, consciousness issue. How do you say, when do you say the machine is conscious? We say you are conscious. Can we say your cell phone is conscious? Your cell phone has got a lot of AI because you're using Mr.
No,
Steve Jobs'
it's not.
one.
Last related question, it's not even a question, it's a statement rather. During the Mauryan Empire with Chandragupta Maurya and Kauntalya, Chanakya, all there, they had such a beautiful system in place that a landmass much bigger than in present day India, they were able to govern so well. Even do predictions, even the book says that even before a crime was committed, because of certain information and knowledge that they got ahead, they were able to prevent crime or arrive at the crime scene before it was happening. Now, look back, and that was 300 BC old and others, compare it to today's world that we are in. How much have things changed? How much have they developed? I'll leave it for a question.
No, the cycle repeats, Shankar. We should not assume in the past, many thousands of years ago, they could not have predicted. Even there could have been, yes. The cycle only repeats.
No, but the most important thing you have forgotten there. Chanakya in Arthasastra said how important it is to have a full spy ring, a spy system. He prevented a crime because its spies reported to him.
That was data analysis.
That is data analysis.
Yeah, the second one, Shankar, one point, I just mentioned that based on the inputs from Sampath and Dr. Ram Subramaniam. You said that everything is algorithm driven, but there is a cautionary tale. Today what they are doing here is what's called ensemble method. You do not rely on a single model. Let's say you use 5 models to predict whether a particular customer will default. Let's say the first 3 models, first record, first customer, defaulter. Let's say 3 algorithms say that person will default. The 2 algorithms saying not a defaulter. Second record, defaulter, all of them. Then what you do is all the models you ensemble, take the maximum voting. For every record, you need not have used the same model, a multiple of models, so that the accuracy improves on a real-time basis. That's what is happening. You do not rely on a single model today. Then the algorithm may collapse.
Good afternoon to everybody. To Dr. PKV, again layman questions. I mean, some are like, question first. So when you were giving examples of banks and the performance of these banks, isn't there, for this data analytics, isn't there a time frame also? Are you looking at years or along with the data that you're analyzing? Isn't it for a period of time that you're looking at this data before you come up with any prediction or conclusion?
After you build the model, you should be capable of predicting on a real-time basis with the data available that you are going to slip, you are not going to slip. Initially, you gather data, you have plenty available, then you satisfy yourself that the training set, the model has been validated, then I have tested it with a reasonable number of records, the model works, then I have also tested it with a new record, new customer details, model works, then you put it on a system, and then on a real-time basis, the new thing becomes available. Then it is not 1 year and all that. Okay. You will have to alert the bank. Otherwise, after the collapse, if you say and do a post-mortem, it doesn't help. So predictive analytics does that. Okay. There is a predictive analytics, there is inferential analytics. Inferential is you statistically say this is significant, not significant. That doesn't help. That is inferential. But does it work for the new data, for everything? Then you program it. So machines are not explicitly programmed. You are giving the algorithms and then trying to control the whole thing.
The second thing is, isn't this data analytics very useful in actuarial sciences? I think it will be really useful.
In insurance, very useful. Insurance analytics is there. Okay. So actuarial analysis, the fellow of the Institute of Actuaries is dominated by mathematics, statistics, and probability. It's one of the toughest exams to clear, and definitely insurance analytics is very, very critical. It's there. Okay. The word analytics is both fortunate and unfortunate. So we had a discussion I had with Sampath. You need analysis for analytics, But all analysis may not be analytics. Think about it.
Thank you. Dr. Ram Subramaniam. Yeah, when you said that, when you mentioned that when we're using AI, we need to know what we're actually getting into. Like, I mean, we should know before we use it that what are the risks or what we're actually getting into. And you also mentioned, I'm not sure of the exact number, say about the 1.4 billion population, out of that about 800 million are users of internet, and out of which say about 390 some million will be using it just for social media or YouTube or things like that. So when we are talking about a country like India, which is not so literate, and they're using it only for these kind of applications and for entertainment, and even among the literate population, many a time when there's some like a license agreement and says these things, click okay, do we really read it and click okay? So when we're talking about the not so literate population, will they be able to understand and do it? And if they don't, what is the way forward? How can we make them understand what they're actually getting into, including myself?
Okay. Will we include you or not, I don't know. Maybe I'll exclude you because you're not illiterate. But let me give you a scenario. I think you or somebody is mentioning the person who delivers flowers to us. Now she has gone to GPay. When she goes to GPay, what happens? She sees the screen, she does something that doesn't work, she scrolls down, takes that box, and they accept. She does not read English. What has she accepted? A document in English, which very clearly is loaded against the user in favor of GPay. You should not do this, you cannot do this, I can't do this, you can't do this, etc., etc. Why is that important for them? Because their own internal process says, if you don't have somebody accepting it, I can't deliver the service. Why is that process so? Because the delivery fails. If it becomes a legal angle, now the liability squarely goes back to her because she has said, I'll do all this. Now, unless she proves that it all went wrong because of the mistake of GPay as an organization, she will not be able to get anything out of it. So this is the way in which they do it. This is not true of this GPay. You go to the bank, a very well-known bank, let us say. You want to open an account. They give you 10 pages and say, please sign. Honestly, tell me, Meenaji, how many of us read that? You can be literate, you can have a doctorate in English literature.
Yeah, that's why I included
law.
myself when I say I take that saying, okay, 99% I don't read it. Yeah.
So it's all on trust. Lot of it on trust. It is that trust that makes life easy, also lands you in trouble. Mm-hmm. I always keep saying there is a very strong relationship between convenience and security. More convenience, less security. More security, less convenience.
Absolutely.
But generically, we are so tuned to move towards convenience and forget security.
Especially in India, I would say that.
Not necessarily, all over the world.
No, because at least they don't do the job here. Many people offer to do the job for you. Just sign here, they'll say, and then we just give the form to them. Whereas I think any other country, they make you sit there, you jolly well read at least 50% of it, and then you sign it.
The simple difference is, if the same document is given, let's take a British national, English as a native language, let's take given to somebody in India, for whom it is not a native language, both sign without understanding it. The only difference is here, he doesn't care. Something written, I sign. There, he could have read, could have understood, but says, I don't want to do that. Convenience. Show me the X mark. X mark, let me sign. So I think a lot of what is happening today, without being very sarcastic about it, can be traced back to the people who violated basic security hygiene from being implemented. All over the world. It's not India. Second, I just want to add one more statistic to you. Any evil thing that happens in the system, computer-related evil, for example, a new ransomware, a new virus, it always originates in North America. Last 40 years, I can give you the history. North America, it originates. It migrates to Europe. China? Almost same time, it goes to Japan. Then it comes to India and China at the same time. Finally goes to Africa. Africa, in a way, is very fortunate because by the time it goes to Africa, they know the countermeasures for that. So how do you explain this? It's because the United States, with this huge literate population, as we think, has been the biggest origin for all insecurity activities. Not today. So many decades have been happening. It will continue to happen. Even the latest ransomware we see has just come to Japan. So I'm telling Indian clients to come to you. Just be ready. It's a matter of another 2 weeks or 3 weeks for you. This happens. Convenience and security. You, I, all of us do it.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
I have one question for Dr. PKV. You made a comment, this thing for strong, medium, and weak banks. You had graded HDFC, ICICI. No, that's an example. But I was just looking at it in the sense that you said HDFC has got about 1% of NPA and SBI has got about 3% and things like that. But in this analysis, is also the portfolio quality taken into account? The type of lending that they do, possibly HDFC has got a larger proportion of home loans as compared to SBI?
This is based on the balance sheet analysis of all the banks. This is based on that. Second, the variables, features that are taken, credit deposit ratio, net interest income to total assets, CAR to 1, CAR 2, the capital adequacy part, liquid asset to total assets, return on assets, then gross NPA to total advances, all are taken, and all accounts HDFC emerges so far as a very good example.
No, that's right. That means the thing is the quality of the portfolio. For example,
Yes,
of course, in the balance sheet, do they give you information on what is the allocation in different portfolios, like how much is done on home lending,
Yes,
how much is
if you
vehicle,
read
house?
the balance sheet data with Reserve Bank, Reserve Bank has got complete data on the banks. But the other thing which I want to tell you is a credit to deposit ratio, what should be? A chartered accountant turned expert in cryptology. But now, if you look at some banks, credit to deposit 100%, supposing 1:1, 100, is it good?
It's not
75, is it good? 65, is it good? If you see HDFC, the interest spread also is fantastic. As a bank, I am just saying, given the data, and the limitation is other things which are not revealed in the balance sheet, I have no idea. But HDFC is supreme. It even does better than the public sector banks or any top bank. Of course, State Bank is great because the size, 3% NPA may be all right, but they have brought it down from 9% to 3%.
Is this data after HDFC merged with HDFC Bank or?
No, even before HDFC was doing well. As early as 2014, you can analyze. HDFC has been a conservative innovation as against some of the aggression by other banks. I don't want to name them. And City Union Bank is a small bank, but a very good performer.
Strong bank, yeah. Any other questions?
Yes, to Dr. Ram Subramaniam. So, artificial intelligence created by natural intelligence, that is human intelligence. So, the human intelligence varies person to person. For a layman using artificial intelligence, can there be a possibility to enhance their natural intelligence?
Very good question. It depends on what you use it for. For example, as I was mentioning, ChatGPT. You can use a number of things. But if you're using it for very mundane things, in fact, what will happen is it will make you much blunter. Your thinking ability will come down. But if you use it for analytical things, for example, you want to analyze something, you want to go one step beyond what you know now, there can be an impact where it will increase your natural intelligence. I think that has been happening also. I think we have sort of wrongly understood AI to mean machine learning, some algorithm analysis, much beyond that. It's solving very complex issues, complex problems in the world. Rightly or wrongly, somebody called me a cryptologist, so let me take back an example from cryptography itself. For a very long time, a crypto system called electrical curve cryptography did not have a solution. It needed very powerful AI-driven tools to get a solution. That is now being used to develop a next technology called quantum computing. Now, these are significant features because of which we have become brighter, more learned, more understood. So what you say, the interaction will keep continuing to happen.
Thank you, sir.
Interestingly, this just at lunchtime, I was just looking at there are new extensions by Google in Chrome. One of the most interesting extensions that I found was that is, if you are reading an article, say in Chrome, and you have a question on that article, you can use that extension, okay, and post that question. It'll give you an answer. So as you are reading, if you have a thought, you have a question, you can post it and get an immediate answer. This is one application of AI which I thought was brilliant, because otherwise we need to remember that question. After you read, you have to go back and search for the answer. Here you can get an immediate this thing. So possibly, if I keep using it, I'll become brighter.
Okay. To Dr. PKV. So in the field of business, from the conversation so far, we can understand the data analysis and the data analytics. It is very useful to make a decision, but it's a very layman question again. How do we use it? For the data analytics, there should be some data inputs already in a particular system. Or is there any common platform available for everything?
If you look at today, government data,
Okay.
data.government.in, you have everything, anything you want,
Okay.
years together, all sectors, everything you have. Economy, agriculture, tourism, hospitality, healthcare, state-wise data, everything. Then Government of India has created national platform for data analytics. And if you register, you want to get data on various aspects, it's available. And it's growing. The importance given to the acquisition of data is made a lot easier because of cloud computing, parallel computing, and other things. So data is available. And if you look at within Srivathsam, for example,
Okay.
you are getting comments, you are getting a lot of things, guests are coming, people are talking, they say something about it, and you are writing a lot of things, and people respond to that feedback. Now, if you put all this and try to start, for example, and try to see what people think about it, that could be analytics. But we are not making use of that. So data is available,
Okay.
the question. The other one, associated with artificial intelligence among the practitioners, there is one term they call deep learning, which is based on distiller concept, particularly predicting images and all that. Learning itself should be deep, but it's called deep learning. Okay. So artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, analytics, you will have to see them together. And nothing can be in isolation. That I know some technique, I apply, then it will not be useful to you. So the whole problem will have to be defined. And problem itself you may not know unless you look at the pattern in the data. Okay. See, once upon a time we will say, this is the problem I want to solve. Today you will have to find out the problem also. You have to make the customers or consumers want the product. It's not that you do market research and say, this product do you like? Gone are those days. Today, how will you make the customer want the product based on buying pattern, behavior, data, and all that? It's happening on a real-time basis. So this is the beauty. So it's a continuous improvement. Status quo is a recipe for failure. We'll have to embrace the change before it impacts you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It has been a great session. I think not only for who have attended the session, those who are seeing online and those who are going to see in the recorded videos, they are all going to be the beneficiary. Thank you so much.
Of course, time is up. I lifted my hand earlier, so my brother called So finish off your this thing. I don't have much of question. I just have a concern. The wonderful presentation about the data analytics and then the legal framework, the adoption level in different places and all that. And the scope is really amazing. I would like to privately sit and even learn more and more. A few simple things like, I just saw recently on data, as far as India is concerned, the income tax payers, so we have 142 crores population. The income tax return submitting was around 7.4 crores. Out of that, around 5.2 crores declared zero liability. 2.2 crores people paid tax, which is about 2% of the population. 2% of our population have paid income tax. Now, what do we infer from that? Because data talks about insight. Initially, when you said insight, what is the insight from this? One insight could be, the wealth is concentrated. We got independence in 1947. Today we are talking about the wealth is so much concentrated, which is a dangerous news. So if that is not, the tax evasion is huge. If the tax evasion is so huge, assuming if the scope of artificial intelligence can break it open and bring still large amount of money to the government, then the benefit could be the overall income tax slabs and the income tax itself, percentage itself, for honest taxpayers can come down, which can meet a social objective. All the artificial intelligence and data analytics, when the government implements, it has to meet the social objectives. There are so many social objectives to be achieved, but it is politicians who play a role, may even block artificial intelligence getting into that. Now, the question is this: can artificial intelligence, now we are linking PAN card to Aadhaar card to this, voting, voters card to be attached with this, then your ration card should be attached with this. There's no end. We are only all the time busy with doing some documentation for the government, or some penalty is going to come from somewhere. All these are getting linked so that you can analyze your data so well now. Can artificial intelligence identify some such things like tax evaders and then play a role?
Okay, that's a very good question. The data he gave is very interesting. He said 7.4 crores out of 140 plus crores have income tax filed returns, and only 2% paid tax, just 5% did not pay. But there's one small aberration possible. I don't know the data. The 5 crore is no liability, which means the tax related to TDS credit would have been higher, also possible. So what I hear and read from the finance data is that we have close to 6% of the people who are either paying tax or paid tax, as TDS earlier. That is still small. But the primary contributor as to why we have such small amount of income tax payers is a very large chunk of people who earn agricultural income are grossly exempted from income tax. India is an agricultural country. Many people who own estates, sugarcane plantation, rice farms, the entire income is under Section 10 of the IT Act, totally exempt from being taxed or filed. So that is a very serious political issue to handle. The second aberration we find is, of the 7 plus crores who filed the return, you'll be very surprised, as I was, when I told you the salaried class are the highest taxpayers.
Yes.
Whereas the income really goes to somebody else, and those somebody else is not filing returns. So these are some aberrations, which I think Finance Commission after Finance Commission after Finance Commission have pointed out. But like you also correctly said, it needs a different kind of a political orientation to get over this. We have information, we know what's happening, but they are happening within the precincts of law because of various factors. Like you said, The IT Act is 1961. We still not made any major changes to that. Hopefully, with all this data available, the government will, in its own wisdom, change some of these methodologies and approaches, and probably in years to come, more people will file for income tax also. That's what I feel will happen. Yes.
See, the other issue here is, as he rightly pointed out, 70%, nearly 70% of India's population is some way or other connected to agriculture. They are rural people. So that straight away knocks them out of the whole income tax setup. The second thing is, now you got to look at it, all this linking process is a part of this collection of data. Now when you have GST and you have income tax, both these data are being analyzed. It is not that it is not analyzed. Supposing on GST turnovers, the GST tax collected by a shopkeeper, and then his personal income tax, you can find a relationship. And there's a large team working, what AI? They are doing all types of stunts. There's another thing called data mining. Okay, they're doing all types of things. That's why they pick up all data. And if it is not, something very significant, they forget about it. Otherwise, they really take action. It's not, the government knows. Today, the government knows a hell of a lot of things about you than you know. You yourself don't know many things. The government will tell you where you bought something, how much you paid, everything you know. And why are they promoting BEAM, for example? Why are they promoting UPI payments? It's only that. Every transaction is recorded. Everything that you pay, even 10 rupees, the government knows. So it's not, supposing somebody is spending on BEAM, he's spending 2 lakhs or 3 lakhs per year and declares an income of 1.5 lakhs, they very well know about it. So it's not that they are not doing. It's only a question of, with this the size of thing, historical reasons, legal issues, because our systems are still not even in the 20th century, it's in the 19th century. They're still trying to change the Evidence Act. So it's like that. So it's a long, complicated procedure. It takes time.
One further observation. Earlier days, I'm sure you also remember, the tax due was there. You had to go to income tax department, stand in the queue, file the return. Today, you don't do all that. You digitally sign from your house. Now, I understand that after digitalization, after digital signature become reality, the tax returns are getting filed on the dot, on the time. One. Secondly, they are also attributing a significant growth, the number of returns being filed, even though it's nil return, to make it easier. You don't have to go stand in the queue, pay a challan, give it to another counter. You sit here, use a credit card, pay, sign digitally, and you're very happy with it. So, all this are taking us towards something. But like you said, 140 crore is not easy to handle. It takes a bit of time, and I think they are the right path.
Yeah, my question is very simple. Mr. Sampath had mentioned while talking, human minds cannot be read by artificial intelligence or data science. Can data science or artificial intelligence overcome certain human factors and give a real predictive analysis? I just give you an example. 2025 elections are coming. 2024 elections are coming. And can AI or data science really give a true picture of who is going to win? I'm going back to Maslow's theory, coming back to basic needs, roti, kapda, or makan. When there is corruption, bribery, money laundering, business courtesies, money for vote, when all these things are there and there are basic needs for people, how can AI or data science overcome all these things and give a solution?
Two parts. I'll say something, then of course, Professor Vishwan may want to add for that also. I don't know how to apply Abraham Maslow's hierarchy to this. But I think the basic is what you said. I don't know about data science. I can tell you about AI. AI is not a predictive tool. It does not claim any knowledge of future. It simply goes by logical process of performing certain events. It does not claim to be astrologer, does not claim to be a predictive method. Even if I predict, there are errors which I'm prepared to say. I'll probably predict and say, this will happen subject to error of plus or minus X percentage. Will the X ever become 0? Never. I can bring it lower, 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 but the x will remain a positive integer for a long time to come. So I don't think as we understand AI today, I'll ever tell you, and let me draw a parallel. Someone talked about actuarial science. What does the actuary do? When he underwrites a policy, uses predictive methods to determine how long this person is likely to live. That's what they're doing. I mean, it may go wrong, maybe 1 or 2 years, but he's trying to predict. But no actuary, the best of actuary in the world, I can say that because my uncle was an actuary, fellow from UK, and as he said, very tough examination. I used to ask him, can you predict life? He said, no. We can give aggregate data, which is good for insurance. But can I extrapolate and say at the end of it, therefore I will say, Dr. Rama will die on so-and-so date? No way I can do that. So, AI is not predictive science, it's not astrology. It has got other features. Maybe he wants to say.
See, one clarification based on my interaction with some of the well-known experts, and the latest one, I would like to say, we'll have to understand some of the latest things which they are saying. When you need prediction, you need machine learning and all that. So what happens today, as at least the major field, the biggest contour, the largest contour or circle is artificial intelligence. Within that, the subfield is machine learning. Within machine learning, you have deep learning. And analytics will have to be the interplay of all these three. Correct. So you need to automate the decisions, for which you need to build algorithms for prediction, for which you need to validate, and therefore data science is gathering insights and validation, but that's not adequate. So what you need is, when you say analytics is a combination of all these three. You need to automate, for example, this deep learning, what it does from artificial intelligence. Originally, if you look at artificial intelligence, the artificial neural network of the IIT days, I will give you an example. So primarily, it mimics the human brain. It mimics you. Suppose you are playing basketball. Now, you want to improve your hit rate by throwing the ball into the net. So you assume a distance, velocity of the ball with which you throw the ball, and the angle, you try to improve the hit rate. So it learns. You are learning. Similarly, the machine is learning. Now it can go wrong. It can go wrong and all that. So we will have to understand predictive analytics, descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, prescriptive. All are important. Ultimately, all right, you are doing all this. Tell me, what should I do? Then the prescriptive analytics comes there. So artificial intelligence will have to also gather inputs from all this. It is not in vacuum. Suppose you use stock price prediction using algorithmic trading. You need time series. But the time series done in artificial intelligence methodology is far, far different from the econometrics time series.
Correct. But
so the algorithms are there.
But the prescriptive or predictive are not definitive.
In other words, data science,
data
analytics.
They are not reliability centered as of now.
Data science, data analytics cannot be separated as an individual concept without having to do anything with artificial intelligence. That's what I'm trying to convey to you. All are important.
I think the point here we'll have to look at is, there is no model on this earth, no predictive model which can tell you really what will happen. Okay, that's the reality. Okay, as he said, it's all asymptotic. We only hope for the best, and it all depends upon whom you want to win. Okay.
And we are assuming, the psephologists, when you talk about the election, we are making an assumption which may be reasonable or unreasonable, that the TV channel, that the TV anchor channel or whichever channel, they do not have any bias towards for or against a particular political party. So the psephologists, if the psephologists will have to be unbiased, then the predictions will be different. So they say trend, opinion, mood of the nation. We have to sometimes take them with a pinch of salt.
Now I think we'll close with that. Pinch of salt is a very, very light term.
we have to take them with a barrel of salt. Okay. I think we'll close here. I think we have had a very entertaining discussion, and all of you are possibly wiser today. I don't know what will happen tomorrow. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sampath ji. Can you please do the honors for...